Okay, welcome everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. And I'm glad that you have joined. And I have Kim Silvio here with us. I want to tell you a little bit about myself first, how I got involved with this. I've been part of the XJW community for, I don't know, the last almost 20 years. I left when I was 18. I thankfully was not baptized, but I've always been involved. My brother was active for a while until he got disfellowshipped a few years ago and thankfully exited. But I've always tried to keep sort of around the advocacy and speak up when I can. And like many of you, I saw Lloyd's video. I saw Kim's post on Reddit, and then I saw Lloyd's video. And after I saw Lloyd's video, I then saw Kim's response. And at least for me personally, I just couldn't believe what I had seen. And I felt that I needed to speak up. So some of you probably think I'm a little bit of a maniac on Twitter for saying so much, which is fine. But I've really felt the need to speak up. And then we had discussed doing a rebuttal video, and Kim reached out to me. And after I started talking to her, I thought we can do this, and her side of the story should be heard, and what she knows and what she witnessed. So without further ado, I want to introduce Kim. And Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Hi, so anybody that knows me will know that I'm Australian. I was part of the JW Watch team since 2019 and just obviously resigned a few weeks ago. I was the head of operations at JW Watch. So, my role was varied. I used to work quite closely with Lloyd. In the latter part of time, I took over management of his voicemails. I worked very closely with producer Bob with channel content, interviews, etc., and just was generally a bouncing board for Lloyd with ideas and discussions, bringing in new people into the team, trying to develop the website, and just all sorts of things like that. Working with people to just build up the website and obviously the content in the channel.
And what is your work background?
So I was a lawyer. I'm retired now and have been for some years. I haven't worked full time since before 2017. So most of my time has been JW Watch.
And could you give us a little more detail about some of the things you worked on?
So in the latter part of the ICSA process, I worked closely with Lloyd. There were some issues that it's well documented on his channel with hate speech, etc. And I worked with him to formulate responses and to address the necessary concerns. We also did some work in respect of the solicitor on record for the ICSA hearing, representing Jehovah's Witness organisation or Christian congregation. So yeah, I did a little bit of that. I've also done quite a bit of work with supporting victims in Australia for the redress scheme, obviously keeping as many XJWs up to date with what's actually happening with the redress legislation, because obviously it is very important to people to see that some action has happened from a government. It gives people hope. So yeah, I've done quite a bit of that, and obviously lobbying with members of parliament in Australia just to make sure that the things that they promised that were delivered, which they were, and credit to the Australian government for that.
Great. So what led to all of this? To the controversy, to your post on Reddit? We haven't really heard your side of the story yet. What, for viewers who are watching this, can you tell them about what led to all of this?
Yeah, so I think it was around about the 8th of December. I had a Zoom meeting, just one-on-one with Lloyd, and we just were chatting about, business-related issues. And at the end of the conversation, I just said to him, "Are you okay? And you don't seem yourself." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm not ready to talk about it, but when I am," I said, "All right, no worries, that's fine." Lloyd and I have quite a professional relationship. We don't sort of get into each other's business. We're acquaintances, and I would say we are friends, but not good friends or close friends or confidants. Like we don't. I had absolutely no idea that when he said, "Oh, I'm not ready to talk," I had no idea what he was talking about. I'm not that au fait with his personal life. Okay, no worries if there's anything. I offered to take on some of his extra bits and pieces, making thumbnails for his videos, things like that. Just,
So
whatever little bits.
Yeah, your relationship is more of a business relationship.
Yeah.
than it was
Absolutely.
a friendship, personal relationship.
Absolutely. And so, you know, we left it at that. Producer Bob contacted me a week later and said, Lloyd's asked to have a meeting with us. And I said, oh, okay, well, you know what it's about? No. Okay, no. So we had a meeting with him, and which we did. We got to the meeting, and he disclosed to us, you know, that there was issues within their marriage. He disclosed some of the content of his conversation with us last night, or when his live stream was. He told us that, and then he proceeded to tell us a whole heap of information without giving us notice or warning. And he did tell us what he said on the live stream. I don't need to repeat that. And other things, some things that issues were going on with he and Diana, which I haven't spoken about and won't be speaking about. He also talked about, you know, he was trying to resolve it with her, which is their business. I'm not interested. And then in part of the conversation that he was discussing, you know, of his interactions with Diana, he made a comment, and I won't speak the comment, but the comment related to the fact that he was engaging in prostitution and, you know, sexual activities with sex workers, and has been for some time, well, number of years, quite a number of years, on a regular basis. And he said it as if I hadn't known, that it was only that Diana hadn't known. And I'm sitting there thinking, hang on a minute, whoa, I was very shocked. And what I was more shocked about than anything else is that he'd said it in front of producer Bob, because by now everybody's very well aware producer Bob is a girl. She's my age. Well, I think we're 2 weeks apart. I don't know. We're in the same year anyway.
Yeah.
And, you know, she does not have any real substantial relationship at all with him. And I certainly wouldn't call them friends. I would call them colleagues at best. So I was really shocked that he said that. It just came right out of left field. I had no idea, and he was just ranting and raving, and you know, it was fairly evident from the content of the conversation that he needed to be apart. He
Yeah.
needed some time away by himself because of the nature of what was going on in the household. So he then discussed going on a break, and that he was going to try and get away. I offered for him to come to Australia. Producer Bob offered for him to come to her country, and he said no. And that's when he, you know, said that he was going to go somewhere else, and etc. etc. So conversation ended. There was a lot of information disclosed. I was in a lot of shock, as was producer Bob. We didn't speak for 24 hours, which is horrendously unusual. And so, yeah, after that we spoke, and Lloyd isn't aware of this, but at the time we agreed that we would see him through this crisis, and then we would resign from JW Watch, because
Yeah.
we were absolutely not in a position to be able to support his work any further, knowing what we had known. But we're also very mindful of you know, his situation at the time. We wanted to just, you know, try. I was very concerned for his brand at that point. I really hadn't had time to comprehend and really understand what we'd been told. So I just, you know, I just went into crisis management and just tried to do what I could do. And he had asked us during the course of that conversation to support Diana while he was away, which we did.
Yeah.
And have continued to do until today. Contrary to what people believe or don't believe, I don't care. That is the situation. So you know, we did that, and you know, the rest is history, as you say.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, what was it that sort of triggered you to then go to Reddit and make a post? Because there's a lot of brouhaha over you going to Reddit and making this post. What was it that sort of really pushed you to do that?
Yeah. So the whole time, from the time that Lloyd had said that he was going to Thailand, I initially had thought that that was a good idea. Whether I'm naive or not, I don't know. But he was talking about scuba diving. I know he likes scuba diving, and I thought, you know, that would be a good opportunity for him to just have some time to think, you know, on his own, But very shortly, the conversation started, turning to things that he has disclosed, not me, activities, whatever. And I was becoming increasingly frustrated when he started to interact with people on social media, because I still don't think that he has an understanding of how much people think of him, and how much their emotions can be influenced by him. And I just felt that he was picking fights with people on the internet that were just not necessary. So many people had expressed support for him, both in the Patreon and in the subscribers. I just thought, what's wrong? Why are you behaving? Stop. It's getting really tiring at that point.
Yeah.
I was just sort of, come on, Lloyd, like, stop. And so anyway, there was an issue. He had exploded on social media. I hadn't seen it. Another XJW from Australia had seen it, expressed concern. I went, oh, okay. So I contacted him. We had a chat. I said, come on, like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? I spoke to him, and I'm by no means a mental health expert, and I'm not even going to pretend I am. But obviously I have lived experience with mental health, for those who don't know my story. And he was upset, and he was upset with the events that had occurred that day, and it had nothing to do with the XJW community. It had something to do with what he had done that day, and he wasn't happy with the outcome of the day. And I was like, well, come on, just think about the community. Again, I was like, come on, think about the community. You're upsetting people. And so that was it. I was notified the following day, because obviously really late at night in Australia, or not really late, but quite late. It was, and I'd had a bit to drink, I think, that night. It was New Year's Eve, I think. Anyway, so I went to bed, got up the next morning, found out what had happened. There was a suicide attempt on behalf of that person, and it really made me think. And P.S., he was still posting on social media, and it really made me think, enough is enough. This could happen to somebody. Like, somebody could be concerned about, him. People, when you've got mental health issues, you can really catastrophize very quickly. And if you think that, he can't do it, so they can't do it, it's a really serious thing. And everybody that knows or follows his work and has seen my contribution would know that I'm very passionate about mental health. And I'd had enough. I have had enough. He had been very difficult. I was sick of, trying to encourage him. And I said what I said. It's out in the public. I said it. I wrote it. And, my true intent, I was frustrated. I'm not going to lie. I was frustrated with him. I just wanted him to hear what I was trying to say to him, and try and understand, and just see it from the other side of the coin. The community had been so good to him in supporting him, and he hadn't been entirely transparent. He hadn't told people, any part of the conversation. And that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
But they're likening him to their circumstances, and that's not the case. The circumstances are very different. The mental health factor is completely different. And so I just, I tried to placate him and say, look, tried. The conversation just went absolutely nowhere. He just kept getting angrier and angrier and angrier, and more, in my opinion, more and more unreasonable. And I said to him, just, stop. Like, let's take a break. We're both elevated. I'm very elevated now. You're upset. Let's reconvene at a later time. Not those words, but words to that effect.
Yeah.
And he would not take that. He said, man, kept going. So I just said to him, stop. And then he left the group. And I just at that point thought, you know what, like, I'm trying to help you, but it would seem that you can't help yourself. I'm not going to hang around and wait for my concerns to become a reality. I cannot support you anymore. And so the following day I resigned.
Yeah, especially after somebody had, had a suicide scare or attempt based on words, based on actions.
for the record, I clearly made it. It's you know, it's in the messages between he and I clearly and repeatedly tried to make it, and I think this is where I became extremely frustrated. I clearly made it known to him that what happened was not his fault.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And I was trying to get him to just look at it from a different perspective, just try and understand, but he just wanted to continually throw that, you're blaming me, and it didn't matter how many times I said, no, I'm not. It's not your responsibility. It's never anybody's responsibility if someone does, attempt
Yeah.
suicide or take their life. They have options and choices, and we always hope that we can be there to support them with their choices, but there's a long way between thinking it and doing it. And excuse me. So I just was frustrated that he wasn't hearing what I was trying to say.
Yeah, and my opinion on that after hearing your story was a little bit shock, because also it's sort of, at least for me, I feel like if I was in that situation, I would be very concerned about the victim, not necessarily about myself and whether I can post on social media or not. So having gotten that side of it, at least for me, it was a different perspective that even I've been pushing very much on the the, the optics of the sex abuse issue, but this is also a very serious issue as well. So I think it's important when we get into the video to then when you hear his side of this, and see the text, what's going on there. So you quit. You have a
Yeah.
conversation with Lloyd. How does
Yes.
that go?
So I can't remember the specifics of, obviously I spoke with producer Bob, and we both elected to. We had made the agreement we'd leave at the end of it, but I spoke to her and said, look, I can't in good conscience remain. I just can't do it anymore. It's not. And she said, I can't either, because obviously she was privy to the whole conversation.
Yeah.
She was in the group. It wasn't a private conversation. So then I said, well, I'm resigning. She said, so I resigned on both of our behalves. And the next day he contacted me personally and wanted to try and work it out, and just said, like, if you can't come back now, please, come back, wanting to sort of mend fences. But by that stage, to be honest, I'll just say it as it is, because that's what I usually do. I was just so disgusted with his behaviour, from imposing this information on myself and producer Bob, and then just being hard work with trying to just get him to just see it from the other side of the coin, and I just couldn't agree with how he was handling the situation. I just couldn't, I can't be part of that. And so I just said, nope, I'm sorry. And I haven't, other than for when he saw my statement go up, I haven't heard from him.
Yeah. Did
Which
he
is
ask,
okay.
did he ask for confidentiality?
No, he didn't ask. He expressed expectation.
And what was your response to that expectation?
I didn't respond.
Yeah. Okay. So he didn't have an agreement with you. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I think it's very important. His attacks on Kim, he has stated that she, damaged his privacy and that she did all of this. When you'll see later on when we go through his video that he very clearly states he understood that she did not agree to confidentiality.
Yeah.
And I think it's
And
very, very important.
I think one of the biggest, as I said, one of the biggest shocks was just the imposition of the information upon us without notice or warning. And, what am I just supposed to say? Oh, okay, no worries. And obviously the shock of it, he could have said, my wife and I are having marital problems. I need some time away, let's get the team sorted out. Yep, no problems. Sufficient. There was no need to impose that information. I still, to this day, I still don't understand why he did that.
Yeah. We've talked about this as well. I've said too. I don't understand why when he did his video either, he didn't just go, "I'm sorry, I let you down. I'm going to try to be better," and move on. But anyways, we'll get into that. What happened after you posted that Reddit comment? What has it been like since you've posted this information?
Uh, well, Lloyd did send me a message and said, he quoted something that I had said to him, and that, I'll always be your friend. He was, quoting my words back to me, which I did write. That was, at the day after that we had resigned. In that time, I had had a lot of time to think about a lot of different things. So when I did finally write my statement and I posted it with the full intention of just giving people the opportunity to have an informed opinion, and it was never to start a war or cause problems, or I've always been about giving people information and letting them make an opinion for themselves. And so for me, that was what I was doing. I was providing information and support. It obviously created a storm. People were saying, "How do we know it's you?" Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, fair enough. So I'm trying to post a link of a video, and then they wouldn't open it because it's spam or whatever they said. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what do you want me to do? I can't do any more for you. I've said what I had to say. Like, what do you want from me? And they told me to post it on YouTube, which
Yeah.
I don't know how to do, to be honest. And look, Lloyd knows that. I don't know. Everybody that knows me knows I've got technical issues. I know how to log on to a live stream. That's about the extent of it. I did work it out, put a message up, said what I said, and just thought, well, the information's there. You can make it as you do with it as you please. Make your own decisions. And it was just some of the things that I have been messaged privately on all social media forums that I have. I just was shocked. I don't watch them. I don't read them anymore, honestly. I don't go on Reddit. I haven't been keeping up with much of anything. A little bit of Twitter here and there, but really little, because some of the things that I've been called, I actually have to look them up on Urban Dictionary because I don't know what they were. But suffice to say, I've never been spoken to, or not spoken to, but messaged more horrifically in my entire. It actually shocked me that people had such a vile response.
Yeah. And I think that's important too. Once we get into this video, I'm going to show you Kim's response to the video, and you can judge for yourself on her video, and then you can see what Lloyd implied later on. And many people have said that you were trying to destroy him and all this, and you can judge for yourself based on her video. So if you're ready to start, we can get into this. I know we're already 30 minutes in, so we got a long ways to go. We wanted to try to keep this as short as we could for people watching this, but we're probably going to have another hour to go, just so people are aware. This video is being recorded, so we will put it on a YouTube channel. I also want to say that it is going on an alternate YouTube channel that I own. This is not for any self-promotion. This is not to raise funds for anything. If you want to donate to a charity that helps stop child exploitation, I suggest donate to that charity if you want to show your support. One other thing, this is not to vilify sex workers. This is not to vilify people who may go to regulated legal sex workers. This isn't anything like that. This is just showing what Lloyd said and then talking about the facts and the issues of what he said. So if you're ready, Kim, we can get started and go through what he said and get your responses to some of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so two things. I have edited Lloyd's video for time. One of the things we're staying away from, he talks a lot about feeling suicidal, about his mental health. We did not want to touch that because mental health is a very serious thing. This isn't about trying to throw accusations if he had mental health issues. We very much believe that he did. This is just more about some of the other things that were said. So that has been edited out. You'll notice that some things I've rearranged, some things just to call back what he said earlier. But I tried to, as much as I could, to allow there to be context in what he said, and it follows the linear timeline of what he said. So we'll start with Kim's response first, and then once we get into it, we'll explain why we started with the clip that we did. So let me share my screen here. And
hi everybody, Kim Silvio. So I'm here. I apologize the video took so long. I've got technical issues. Look, do I want to post this? No. Do I want to talk about this? No. Do I want this to be true? No. But the fact is it's true. I can't understand why anyone would even think that I would make something like this up. I do have proof. Lloyd knows I've got proof. Lloyd knows that I've posted it. He's contacted me and he's obviously not very happy, but the truth is the truth. If you want to be a subscriber of him, go right ahead. If you want to be a patron, go right ahead. If you want to be a subscriber, go right ahead. If you want to join the JW Watch team, go right ahead and do it. But I want people to know that that's the situation. That's what he's spending his money on. You guys are supporting his work. I'm going to leave it to you to make the decision if you're happy to continue to do that. Can't make it any more simple than that. I'm not commenting on this post anymore. Said what I've got to say, and I'm just going to leave it with you to all make your own decisions. Take it easy. Bye.
so that, to me, at least, does not sound like somebody who is trying to destroy somebody. You made it very clear that people can do with the information that they want. You didn't say anything extra salacious about him. You didn't say anything hurtful about him in that video. All you said was, do with this information that you want.
That's
Now,
exactly right.
yeah, and before we get into Lloyd's video, there was another question that I just wanted to ask you, because in our conversation before this, I thought it was important. In your legal background, what was the term that you used with me about libel?
The first defense to libel or defamation is truth. So in considering anything to do with a libel claim, you must, in the very first argument, you must prove your defense is truth. If you can prove that what you said is true, then there is no claim. The claim dies straight away.
Yeah. So just remember this, audience, when you're hearing libel slung around, defamation, the very first defense is truth. And this is coming from a person with a legal background who could be, or at least I would think could be considered a legal expert. So let's get into Lloyd's video. Let me share my screen again. And I started with something that he said later on in his video, because again, I think this is extremely important that he is saying this in his video, and then watch what he says later on. So let's start.
Yeah. Kim knows what she knows because I took her into confidence, and I'm sure I said during the Zoom call that, you know, this obviously stays between us, you know. And to producer Bob's credit, I should have actually seen the warning signs, because when they both quit, I specifically said to both of them, it goes without saying, or words to the effect of, it goes without saying that you should keep everything that I've shared with you in confidence, confidential. And to producer Bob's credit, producer Bob said, absolutely, I'll keep everything in confidence. It should have been a red flag that Kim refused to say that.
So right here, he's saying that he did not have an expectation of confidentiality from you, and that what he said would not be kept in confidence from the beginning of when you quit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I never gave him any assurance that
Yeah.
I would. There was none of that.
Yeah, so before you made that Reddit post, he was aware that you were not going to keep his confidentiality on this. So I think hopefully, viewers, for you, this is a very important fact when he is saying later on what he is saying about Kim. So let's get into the video here and let it start officially.
I said I've been dragged kicking and screaming onto YouTube. I've had to curtail my break or interrupt my break out of necessity due to a massive invasion of my privacy and betrayal of my confidence. That's what's happened.
So right there, he's saying a betrayal of confidence that there was no expectation on confidence on. At least in my opinion, that's there. And I just want to add, he's saying that, there were things made private, but later on in this video, he goes into even more things than you said, Kim. So if he cares about him and his wife's privacy so much, why did he not just leave it there at that? So I
have no idea.
Yeah, let's get to the next here. We'll try to get through this as quickly as we can.
Who is entitled to this sort of information? Who is?
So this is where it starts to become maybe a little bit debatable. But he asked, who's entitled to this information? Me and Kim have talked about this. Others on Twitter agree with this. Some don't. That if you are donating funds to somebody, especially who is going to be advocating on behalf of sexual abuse survivors, you should be aware if they are spending those funds in an area, on an industry that exploits children. And it's known that they exploit children. This would be akin to me saying, I run an anti-racist organization and you should donate to me because it's going to go towards anti-racist causes, and I'm out cavorting around with the KKK and throwing neo-Nazi parties. If you are donating money to me, you deserve to know if I am going to be spending that on causes that are opposite to what I am saying. And another YouTuber, I think it was Faded Apostate, others on Twitter who have also done a lot of good work on this, made a good point that these are donations. He's not being paid by a corporation. He's soliciting these funds for very specific reasons, and he's gaining these donations based off of things that he's doing and saying. So let's continue.
A friend who I confided in has decided that I am some kind of supervillain. I haven't raped anyone. I haven't committed any kind of sexual offense. I haven't covered up child abuse. I haven't arranged for families to be separated or shunned. I haven't murdered anyone. No seal cubs have been bludgeoned by my hand. No cats have been run over knowingly by me. But Kim Silvio, retired lawyer, former JW Watch team member, has decided that my private life needs to be known by everybody.
So a few things stand out to me here. First of all, he said there was no sexual offense. In Croatia and Thailand, prostitution is illegal. So that's debatable if there was a sexual offense. If sex workers were being used in Thailand, unless passports were checked, which to my knowledge does not happen, there is no way to know that the sex worker you are using is of a certain age. So we don't know if a sexual offense did occur, but it's debatable. The second point, and sorry, Kim, if you want to speak, I don't want to speak over you.
No, I agree.
The second point is, what does any of those other things have to do with the issue at hand? Who cares? Like, nobody's accusing you of bludgeoning a seal. Nobody's accusing you of running over a cat. Nobody is accusing this man of anything other than possibly using funds, which he admits to later, to using funds that were donated to hire sex workers, and then doing that in a country where it is known that sexual exploitation goes on. And we'll get into the other stuff about what happens with people who have other mental health issues and that impact on those. Those are the issues at hand, not any of the other things that he has stated. So this is a fun sleight of hand that many people with narcissistic personalities tend to do when accused of something.
Yeah. And if I can just say, it's my personal opinion that I was so confused when I saw that. I thought, what are you talking about, Lloyd? You know, I don't even consider you a supervillain. That was not any of those things. And for me, it's a massive case of distracting from exactly what I actually want to talk about. And it's not the first time I've seen Lloyd do this, by confusing the issue and stirring up emotions. And yeah, he didn't do it. Oh, she's wrong. I'm talking about one very specific thing, and I didn't appreciate the fact that he discarded that as not relevant and created a new narrative.
Yeah, and he'll read your post on Reddit later on, but also your response. At no point did you call him a supervillain. At no point did you accuse him of anything, you know, terrible that he sees in his eyes. All you said was, "These are the facts. Do with them what you will."
Mm-hmm.
So let's
make an informed decision for yourself.
Yeah, which is also what we're hoping you seeing this will help you do too. Make an informed decision on this matter.
I'm not going to lie, viewers. I can't imagine feeling that much different if my home had been burgled and I'd been held at gunpoint while my personal possessions were rifled through by total strangers. I can't imagine feeling that much different than I feel now. It's the feeling of being abused. For me, abuse, and I'm not talking about child sexual abuse, that's something completely different, but in its purest form, to abuse someone is to do something to them that they absolutely don't want you to do, that will have far-reaching implications on them.
So this to me, this is what really triggered me when I saw this video, and that just made my jaw drop. That he could claim that somebody shining a light on his very real actions that hurt people, that hurt his wife, that likely will hurt his kids, that hurts this community, makes an analogy and says that he is like an abuse victim. Because abuse victims, it happens when they have to face up to something and they're held to account. Imagine using this on a rape victim if you're the rapist. Going, "You told on me," that's abuse. Because now I have to live with this. And I don't want to get too emotional. I want to try to stay as even killed as I can to not push people to one way or the other. But to me, this disgusted me to no end. And especially as he claims to be a advocate of people who are abused, to be able to make that comparison. This is what really set me off and what sort of got me on my crusade, was that comment right there. Because I still just can't believe it when I watch it. And I don't know if you have any comment, Kim, but we can move on if not.
No.
All right, let's move on.
So, again, this is all stuff that I shouldn't have to share with anyone. I'm not in a judicial committee meeting. I'm not sat in front of 3 elders. It's nobody's business. It just isn't. But apparently you all need to know what I do with my dick. That's what all of this boils down to.
And I just want to make a comment again. If your dick is being used in a place where children are being exploited, when you are supposed to be an advocate, then yes, we very much do need to know that. Because all of the hard work that people like Kim, that producer Bob, that other people who have helped advocate on behalf of abuse survivors, all of that work goes out the window when this comes out. And he should be thankful that a private investigator wasn't hired by Watchtower because of rumors that they heard, and that in the middle of going before a committee, a Watchtower lawyer stands up and goes, Lloyd Evans, is it true that you have been seeing sex workers in a country where it is illegal to see sex workers, in a country where they exploit children? All of a sudden, all of the hard work that all of these people have done, that he has done, is out the window, and now it becomes a major news story. And suddenly it looks bad on the entire community because everyone supported him. So it very much is our business what you are doing with your dick when that is causing harm to a community.
I also just want to jump in and add that, you know, I find his language quite crude, but that's probably just me being a prude. You know, this is not the first time I've heard him say exactly that statement. He said that to myself and producer Bob during our Zoom call. And he was referencing a conversation he'd had with his wife. And he also said the same thing to her, that he wasn't before a judicial committee when she had made inquiries as to the circumstances of what had occurred. And he said the same thing to her. And so my biggest concern is that he has no regard or consideration for the consequences of his actions, or, you know, just exactly what he was dabbling in, and the potential that you know, these people could be vulnerable people. They could be trafficked, they could be minors, they could be, we don't know. But he doesn't seem to consider, because he won't answer. He wouldn't even respond or answer that to his wife. So, you know, if he doesn't know an explanation to her and us as a community, not, you know, as individuals, then I don't know. I just, it's beggars belief. If he doesn't understand, then I don't know how he can advocate for vulnerable people.
And this Faded Apostate, for those of you viewing, he did a video. Sorry, I don't have the link if he is watching, but a lot of things I'm saying are probably going to repeat a lot of things he's already said. But he brought up the point. What if Lloyd is bringing home an STD to his wife, saying that it's nobody's business what he's doing with his genitals? Well, if it brings back an STD, I would very much say it's his wife's business. And if he's spreading an STD, it's the sex worker's business. It's anybody who he has sex with. It's their business, what he is doing with his genitals. So we'll move on to the next thing. Again, we're going to try not to take up too much time with these.
Like many who were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, I was subjected to sexual repression. Like many of you watching, I was told, you're not allowed to wank, you're not allowed to be gay, you're not allowed to have sex outside of marriage. Oh, and by the way, if you do get married, you're not allowed to get married to someone who isn't a Jehovah's Witness. Oh, and just another little caveat on this list, no porn, you know? So what that does is it alters who you are as a person, and it deprives you of understanding and exploring a fundamental part of your psychology.
Now, we won't get into a debate about this. I don't think, you know, sexual repression is a very big issue. It does cause a lot of issues in people's lives. I just wanted to play this because, again, that cannot be blamed for cheating repeatedly on your spouse, going and using sex workers repeatedly over years, when you know you've had this issue for years. You know, you can't keep going back to saying I'm sexually repressed. That excuses me for everything. I also was sexually repressed as a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not going to use that as an excuse when I do unethical or what some consider immoral things. I'm not going to say, well, I'm sexually repressed. That's the reason. I'm at least going to try to work on it.
Or that it excuses and relinquishes you of any responsibility for your actions. I mean, it is a common issue within the XJW community. I've spoken with many of my friends in more recent times about this, and I wasn't subject to sexual repression, so I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm taking their perspective, and they very much have said that, many of them have been through it and they've navigated a suitable solution, whether it be an amicable separation or they've entered into open marriages with consensually from both sides. It's okay. I mean, it's not okay the organization does that, but it's okay to acknowledge that this is a reality and make an adult decision with responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. But not an excuse to repeatedly do things.
It also impacted my relationships, not just before Deanna, but including Deanna. And it led to, and I'm going to try to talk about Deanna as little as possible, because she's
I'm going to pause it.
Specifically said, she knows I'm doing this live stream, and she specifically said, talk about me as little as possible.
I'm just going to pause this real quick and remember that he said this. I'm going to talk about her as little as possible and then see how often he talks about her.
But it led to Deanna and I getting married, knowing not as much about each other as we probably would have liked to know now. I think that's fair to say. Certainly without having sex.
So there to me, this sort of, and I don't want to put too much implication here, but it almost sounds like he's trying to put half the blame on his wife, on Deanna here, where he's, which it's fair to say, yeah, we didn't know each other before we had sex, but you've been married for years. You've been out of the organization for years. It wasn't like you just stumbled out of the organization last year. You have been out for years. So, how long does it take for you to know it? You knew it when you wrote the book, all these things. So what does this have to do with anything? And why are you telling us all your private information that your wife doesn't want shared? So let's keep going.
I skirted as close to the line as I could, and I write about all of this in The Reluctant Apostate, not because I had to. I didn't write about all my sex life in The Reluctant Apostate because I had to. I did it because I knew that some Jehovah's Witnesses, namely the Judicial Committee and members of my family, etc., knew stuff about me, and I didn't want there to be any skeletons in my closet. Any skeletons at all. I didn't want there to be anything anyone could hit me with or weaponize against me at some future date.
So he doesn't want anything that can be a skeleton in his closet. He doesn't want anything that can weaponize him, which shows he understands that if he has some sexual impropriety, if he does something that people find immoral, that can be weaponized against him, that's going to have repercussions. Yet this man went to sex workers. He went to Thailand and seems to have engaged in sex workers or with sex workers there. Is that a skeleton in your closet? Is that something that can be weaponized against you? Is he so naive that he doesn't think that's a skeleton in his closet? Yet here he's saying his past impropriety that got him before an elder, which seems to be, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it seems to be less severe than this. He wanted to be open about that. Why not be open about the sex workers from the get-go, from the start?
And one of the concerns, or one of the thought processes, just so everybody's very clear on how I thought about this, I think about, Bottlegate and how just by chance one person happened to be in a bottle store and they happened to take a photo or video or whatever it was, video. And I think, Lloyd is visibly known, recognizable in in his local area and wider area. What happens if an elder had seen him entering a premise and snapped a photo or a video, or I thought about that. Is it possible that somebody could find out, or is it, if it stays with me, is it unlikely that anyone would ever know? And I can't, that's just part of my thought process. And that's a very real risk. He could have been exposed at any time.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on.
And I talked about the fact that when we moved to Croatia, it was because Diana had discovered me chatting with girls online.
Mentions Diana again.
When I say girls, I mean women online. And it led to a situation where, our marriage was in turmoil, and we decided we wanted a fresh start, and we moved to Croatia. And it was moving to Croatia that led to me waking up, because I was disconnected from the constant flow of propaganda due to the language barrier. And the channel I have, if you think about it, ironically, the channel is here. The channel exists, and Lloyd Evans as an activist exists because I am seriously messed up sexually.
So he admits that he's had this issue. He talks more about his wife and their private marital life again with this issue. He leaves to go to Croatia because of this issue. Does that change his habits, or does he continue to do what he told his wife he wouldn't do? And I don't want to get too much into the personal stuff, but these are where the contradictions just start adding up here for me.
And I would just like to add that I feel like that's a little bit of, I don't know what the term is, but I mean, it's very clear. And as a consumer of his product for years, an extensive consumer, I think it's just a bit of an excuse to say, oh, it's because of sexual repression that my channel exists. That's rubbish. It's because of shunning predominantly as his first, and it's because of other things. Shunning is the main reason for his channel existing. I've never heard him say once, I started activism because of sexual repression. If I'm wrong, then I will stand corrected, but I'm have fairly substantial knowledge of his work, and I just think that's, it's almost like he's creating again a narrative that makes people go, oh, that's right, that's what his work's about.
Yeah, we should be thankful that he's doing all these things, because that's leading to us getting content from him. Shocking.
And now the is coming out. Everything that you have seen on the channel, every information I've produced, all the work I've done, if you think about it, stems from my sexual repression and how messed up I was.
I just don't agree with that.
Everything.
I learned to cope with being repressed by going online, by watching porn, and by going on chat sites. And I hoped, or I really, really hoped that when I got married, everything would be normal. I wouldn't need porn. I wouldn't need chat sites. I wouldn't need any of that. It would be enough that my wife would be enough. And the weird thing was, that's not how it worked. And I hoped I'd drawn a line under it when I moved to Croatia. I certainly hoped I'd drawn a line under it when I wrote The Reluctant Apostate. But it turned out I hadn't. It turned out that my relationship with Diana, despite giving me so much goodness, she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. I don't deserve her, quite frankly.
I agree.
Yeah.
Despite there being so many good moments, good memories, and good things about our relationship,
So imagine you are Deanna and you're hearing that you're not good enough on camera, and he's telling all of his followers that you're not good enough. I mean, that to me is another thing that when I watched this, he said he wasn't going to talk to her. Then he talks about how she wasn't enough for him. Now, that may be fair to him that she wasn't enough for him, because that's what happens in relationships sometimes. But to me, the airing the dirty laundry in public about this after you've said you aren't going to talk about it, and you keep on bringing her up as if she's somewhat to blame, and you going out and getting sex workers, which you've just blamed on all of your sexual repression, by the way. You know, are you going to
one of the things that, you know, potentially one of the reasons why people don't understand what happened is because I didn't tell this part of the story. And excuse me, the reason that I didn't excuse me, the reason I didn't tell that part of the story was in order to protect Deanna, because when he said it to me, I felt really awful for her. And when I heard him say it on you know, YouTube, and to say that she wasn't enough, I just sat there and went, and like, are you kidding? Deanna's a friend of mine. Like, as a friend, I find that disgusting. But, you know, the fact that I have copped so much hate for not considering how Deanna felt, and when I've done everything I can to make sure that I've minimized the impact on her, and for him to go and do that, I can't. I'm disgusted. I am ashamed of him for saying that about her.
Yeah, and again, for those viewing, remember, he promised he wouldn't talk about her. He promised he would keep the speech as little as possible about her. So just keep that in mind as we continue.
Right. So
And
for some reason, I wonder if it's been tampered with. Because someone else has access to my StreamYard.
so just to give a little context to this, he was going in and out. He was having technical issues. Then he started making a claim that maybe somebody was tampering with it. Let's continue here. And on the screen, you'll see where he had to walk that back.
I don't want to start any. I should probably leave it there. I'd love to know what was causing that mute issue. Now it's stopped. Now, since I've floated the idea that someone who has access to my StreamYard and is friends with Kim might have been interfering, it's mysteriously stopped. Isn't that interesting?
So up on the screen, you'll see where he had to make a statement walking this back because it was completely false. He had accused a friend of Kim's, which he later states is who he thinks is producer Bob. He has had to walk that back since. And if you'll see, he had no evidence that this happened. It was false, what he said. And on his apology, he says, I have to clarify, I don't think my live stream was sabotaged. He remembered that producer Bob had access, so he assumed that producer Bob could do that. And also in this apology, he outs producer Bob's sex, which producer Bob did not want or did not need that being outed. But on number 2, you can see for some reason he decides to add that he's been informed that producer Bob was very much involved behind the scenes in orchestrating and supporting the sharing of private information about his life, despite her personal assurances to the contrary. So why did he need to add this after he said she had nothing to do with sabotaging his stream? That seems to me that's weaponizing your fan base to try to make her a villain and go, well, even though she had nothing to do with this, even though there's no evidence she had anything to do with this, you should still hate her. You should still suspect her because she's part of a vast conspiracy to take me down. So I don't know if you have any more to say about this, Kim, but
Very little. The only thing that I'll say is that he knew damn well when he was making the allegation that she wasn't there, because we've done live streams many a time and used Yard Stream to facilitate that. And producer Bob has been in the green room. You can see if someone's logged into the account, you can see them in the green room. He knew she wasn't there.
Yeah. Let's continue with this.
I developed ways of coping with my sexual repression that were not healthy. That were healthy. And these people in relationship with Deanna until I did that very, very recently. So, because things were ideal in my marriage, I went on. Who with is, again, none of this is anyone's business, but there were no affairs, there were no, because I haven't really wanted a relationship with anyone else. I haven't looked for one, but I have looked for sex.
So I think many would consider sex an affair. I think this is a little bit. He tends to have a habit of using a bit of doublespeak, of going, well, I didn't have an affair. All I did was have sex with women. I think the majority of people would go, that's still an affair. Some people think kissing is an affair, is an infidelity. I also want to point out that, again, he shirks responsibility. He claims that he claims before that when he moved to Croatia, he knew he had these problems. Did he work on the problems? It seems, based on what he's saying, that he didn't, because he only copped up and owned up to it when he got caught, which was very recently.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is another bit where it seems like he's trying to divert attention away from him and blame anybody for his actions but himself. But the audience can be the judge of that.
So, anyway, all of this came to a head recently. The situation, now my camera stopped. The situation came to a head very recently when Deanna made a discovery. It was actually following my trip to Austin. I wasn't unfaithful in Austin, but I did. Deanna did see some pictures that caused questions to be asked. That's all I'm going to say about that. And things came to a head, and I was forced to be very open with Deanna about the problems in our relationship. And as a result of that, I came to the realization, as I said in my taking a break video, that my life just isn't working, because everything was precariously calibrated based on assumptions, based on an illusion that I felt forced to perpetuate based on our relationship. And
now, notice at the end there, he says, based on our relationship. He doesn't say based on my sexual repression. He doesn't say based on the fact that I was hiding everything, that I was lying, that I was covering this up with my partner. It was our relationship. And I think that's telling, that at the end he says this problem was because of our relationship, not because of him. Again, no responsibility taken. I
really despair XJWs, quite frankly. I feel like following what Kim Silvio has done, my trust in fellow former Jehovah's Witnesses is minimal. It's down to like 1% battery power. Because this is what this cult, now my camera's frozen again. This is what this cult does to people. It makes crackpots and damaged individuals, it makes them want me to be a pedophile. They want me to be a pedophile because they just want me to be destroyed. They resent me in some way. They resent my platform. They resent my audience. They want me destroyed. And to achieve this, they will invent anything, whether it's true or not.
Now, the context, to give a little context, somebody had commented, which he decided to choose to put up on his stream for God knows what reason. Somebody had made a salacious claim that there's rumors about. We won't repeat it here, but somebody had made a salacious claim about him. He decided to put that comment up. And the reason why I wanted to include this is because then he tried to lump that person in with Kim. And then he said, they want me to be a pedophile, which seemed to indicate Kim as well, that she was one of these people that wants him to be a pedophile, that wants to destroy his life, that will make up anything. And as we will go through this video, you'll see, was anything that Kim said made up? Was it invented out of whole cloth? Yet XJWs will do anything, especially somebody like Kim. So maybe you have something to say about that, Kim. I don't know.
I don't have much to say. I just want to say I don't want anybody to be a pedophile. I just think it's ridiculous. And why would anybody want you to fail, especially someone like me? You know, I don't understand that. Why would I put so much effort into something that I wanted to fail? It just, I don't know. That's all I've got to say about that.
Yeah. By the way, all you did was make a post that he admitted everything that you posted about, pretty much. And then you made a short video, which we've all seen, where you basically said, just choose for yourself. So again, based on what he said, based on what Kim has said, based on the video, I think viewers can kind of see, who's more realistic in what they're saying here.
Brandon's got an opinion. Quit blaming a victim, dude. You cheat on your wife. It isn't about the org. Focus on you and your family. Yes, I cheated on my wife. But Brandon, Mr. kind of saintly Brandon, who's never done anything wrong in his life and has always had total mastery over his penis. I'm here to tell you that we're all imperfect and we all make mistakes and we all have to deal with fucked up situations to the best of our ability. And my fucked up situation was that I had my sexuality tampered with. And I am by no means proud of what happened and the way things happened. I really, really am not. I hate that I hurt Deanna. I hate it. And I'm not playing the victim here. This is purely about setting the record straight after a friend has betrayed my confidence. I'm not saying, oh, I didn't cheat on my wife. None of this is true, blah, blah, blah. I'm being totally honest about what happened. And this is how Brandon Halcombe chooses to deal with the situation. This is.
So I'm just gonna pause it here so you can read what Brandon Halcombe said, which is quit blaming a victim. Dude, you cheat on your wife. It isn't about the org. Focus on you and your family. And his response was, how dare you, Brandon? How dare you think that you have complete mastery over your penis? Now, I'm going to speak for a lot of guys that are viewing. I hope I am. I'm a master of my domain. I have complete master of my penis. It doesn't lead me around and go wherever it wants to. And me and Kim, we talked about this too, about how imagine if a rapist goes before a judge and says, well, Your Honor, you must have complete mastery of your penis. How dare you? Is that an excuse to say I can't control my penis? And then he says he'll take responsibility, but just 2 seconds before, he blames it again on his sexual repression. So which is it? You take full responsibility, or it's the sexual repression's fault?
There's so much that bothers me. There's so much that bothers me about that statement. And look, this is just how I see it. This is my personal opinion. When I hear him speak like that, I hear, Your Honor, she deserved it because she was wearing skimpy clothing from a Muslim man, or a whatever man, or whatever, just a man, a Jewish man, a Catholic, anyone that's from a religious background. And I know of court cases in Australia where that's happened. That's what I hear. And I'm like, if that's not victim blaming, you're not responsible for your behavior because you were sexually repressed, or because you're in an unhappy marriage, or because you're in a dysfunctional marriage, or whatever the case may be. But apparently I'm the asshole for telling it as it is, and then he just goes and spreads the rest of it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and again, this faded apostate, he made a very good point on his video, which you say you don't have mastery over your penis, whatever that's actually supposed to mean. So you decide to go to a country where there's loads of sex workers. That's your getaway when you know you can't control yourself, because that's what you're saying. I can't control myself. I just can't help it. But God forbid that you can. I mean, this is almost like the rantings of a crazy person to me, or a madman.
This is his hot take. Jesus Christ.
And how angry he got.
Melissa Nav says, I don't see how the fact that he made a mistake undermines all the job he has done and is doing. Whatever happens in his private life is private and has nothing to do with what he does and how many people he has helped. Thank you.
So I wanted to put this up after he said that, because this is extremely, extremely important. After the talking was done about him going to Thailand and seeing sex workers, I'm sure other people asked him. I was somebody who also put a post up on his Facebook page when he came out with his first sort of whatever this thing was, not an apology, but trying to explain himself. I asked him, I said, did you see a sex worker in Thailand? Yes or no? Will you say you're sorry, etc. Then he had to come out with this revised statement where he says, if sex tourism would have been my incentive, I am sure I would have headed straight to Bangkok rather than Phuket and its stunning beaches. Suffice to say, not that it's anyone's business, but of those I met in Thailand, sex workers or otherwise, nobody was a minor by either Thai or U.S. law, and all were in their 20s or older. Now, this, having also worked around a lot of lawyers, this to me sounds like I can't deny it because there's evidence that I can't deny it. So I'll do the next best thing and say, well, wink, wink, when I did do it, they were all of age. And again, to you, the viewer, was he checking the passport of the sex workers that he was engaging with? He then says everyone that he encountered, sex worker or otherwise, was not a minor, which is another weird phrase. Were you checking the passport of anybody you were sitting at the bar with? Did you not encounter anyone who was under the age of 20? Were you checking every single ID? And the reason why, especially me, I'm so hung up on this bit is that he's advocating for sex abuse survivors. He is going in public. He is getting funds to do that. He's getting funds to pay for people like Kim to help work on behalf of advocacy. And no one in those circles is going to want to be around anybody who put their money towards sex tourism in Thailand, which is a known hotbed of child sex abuse, exploitation, where 40 to 60% of new sex workers are under the legal age in Thailand, which is 15. So if you go to a sex worker in Thailand, they could legally be a sex worker, even though it's illegal there. They could legally be a sex worker according to the age of consent, and they could be 15. And it's the optics of this. And when he's reading a statement saying that none of this is nobody's business because it is not going to affect anybody, that's just a lie. And it's not true. And we've seen it with, I'm from the States, we've seen it with Elliot Spitzer. He was a governor who went and saw sex workers who were all of age, but he had to resign because he had seen sex workers. Because a lot of people find it morally reprehensible. That's just the normal, that's just your regular person. But if you are a sex abuse advocate, it's even worse. And again, what happens if this comes out at a public hearing where he is giving testimony on behalf of sex abuse survivors? How are they going to feel? They're going to feel betrayed. And sorry, Kim, go ahead. You can interject.
I was just going to say that, and how much more damaged, upset would they feel if they found out, that down the track this happened, and the first question they asked was, "Did I know?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. So I then become, a party to the proceeding, and my conscience couldn't live with it. And for whatever, I've copped a lot of abuse, and this is some language, for whatever, I cop, I'll take that because my conscience is clear, knowing that I did the right thing by saying this is not okay. And clearly he's not taking responsibility for his actions, and I'm not going to be the person that says, yes, I knew.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic point. So
So anyway, long story short, I have this kind of crisis where everything that my life is suddenly in doubt. And I don't know what's happening with my marriage. I don't know what's happening with my family. And I need a break. And I said, and it's true, for mental health reasons. And I also said in the video, please don't go thinking that this is just about Lloyd making lots of propaganda videos and it's worn him out. That's not the reason. That's what I said. Yeah. So to the extent I've been scrupulously honest with everything that I've said to everybody. I just haven't shared information that's nobody's business but mine.
They call it lying by omission.
Yeah.
At the time all of this happened, specifically on, I think, the 16th of December.
I'm just going to pause real fast because he just said he's been scrupulously honest with everyone. He's been completely honest with everyone. That's going to play a factor a little bit down the road. Remember, he said he's been scrupulously honest with everyone.
I had a Zoom call. Can you even hear me? A Zoom call with two JW Watch team members, neither of whom are any longer with JW Watch. One was producer Bob, and the other was Kim Silvio. And I shared everything that I've just shared now with them. I told them everything that I've just told nearly 2,000 people who are currently watching this live stream. Deanna and I are having massive problems. It's caused by, sexual incompatibility issues due to the fact that we've we've had problems in that area.
Not his fault.
That
again.
have come to light due to the fact that I've been unfaithful and Deanna has found out.
It isn't because he's been unfaithful, it's
And
because
so
you found out.
we had all of
That's
that
right.
conversation, and I was really touched. I was really touched that both producer Bob, I've got to be very careful to call her producer Bob and not use her real name.
Now,
Why? Why?
yeah, why? And why did you say the sex? Bob is a very asexual name. If you've got to be very careful, wouldn't you just say producer Bob?
But why have you got to be hard? Why have you got to be careful to say producer Bob? You know, you're not careful to say covert fade. You're not careful, you know, to say Miranda Asher. You're not careful to say producer Bob any other day. Why do you need to be careful now?
Yeah. It seems a little bit like that's I may out you. It's hard to say, but that's what it seems. I can see it being viewed that way for sure.
And I understand there's documented evidence from the archives in the X Jehovah community that has happened previously. And I would sincerely hope that history is not repeated.
Yeah. So if you are a physically and mentally out Jehovah's Witness currently, just think about that he has outed other Jehovah's Witnesses, that he is saying he's got to be careful to use her real name, to not use her real name, even though he's called her producer Bob over and over and over again. That, you know, is this the person that should be representing this community? I mean, this is a very serious thing here for people.
And it would be a very unfortunate day if that ever happened.
Yeah.
For reasons I won't go into, I decided that I needed to go away by myself and figure things out and figure out what I wanted. Quite frankly, I wanted to know whether I could be by myself.
Now, let's pause this here. This is the message that he sent you, Kim, as to why he was going there.
Yes.
And he's just said he was going there to get away, to see if he could be by himself. Now, I asked the viewing audience, if you've been caught by your wife using sex workers and you need to get away because you're going through mental health issues, and you've just said that you can't control yourself around women or whatever, why would you go to a country, to a city that is known for sex tourism, that is known for sex workers, if you have to get away and be by yourself due to the fact that you were busted with sex workers? I mean, things just do not add up with this.
I wanted to know whether it was even possible for me to exist without my marriage. Now the camera's cut out again. I wanted to know whether it was even possible for me to exist without my marriage and without everything that I have. So I got on a plane and I fucked up, you know. And I'm going to start reading. I'm not going to share.
Let me go back here.
I wanted to know whether it was even possible for me to exist without my marriage and without everything that I have.
Oh, whoops. I guess
So I got on a plane and I fucked up, you know.
So he says he's going for fishing. He says he's going to figure out if he can be alone. He's saying that he's doing this for his mental health. And instead he goes to Phuket. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've never been to Thailand, so hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But then he has to come out with a statement later saying again that, you know, oh, if he was going for sex tourism, he would have gone to Bangkok, not Phuket, which you'll see later is also one of the most notorious places for sex work. And that it's not anyone's business, but anyone he interacted with, sex worker or otherwise, was 20 years of age or older. So remember that. He's going to get away by himself to work on himself, but he found time to engage with sex workers there after he left because he was using sex workers and his wife found out.
And I'm going to start reading. I'm not going to share screenshots. I'm going to tell you things that was said.
Why not share the screenshot?
Sorry, can you just give me a moment to compose myself? I want to read everything properly because Kim Silvio is a retired lawyer and I want to make sure everything's accurate.
Now, why does he have to be worried that you're a retired lawyer, Kim?
No idea. If he's telling the truth, then he's got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he's hoping that by saying that you're a lawyer, that also vilifies you and also makes it seem like you're a scary professional woman who's a lawyer. At any time, you can bring the hammer down on him. So this was something also that I just wanted to bring up, that he repeats
As
this.
I said earlier, the first offense to libel is truth. So if he's telling the truth, he has nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
2nd of January, I think this was. By the way, I'm going to bring my I'm taking a break video forward so it plays about 4 hours from now. It was going to go up later, but I want to see the first few reactions before I sleep. Kim Silvio, okay, thanks for the heads up. I'm sure the reaction will be much like the Patreon reaction. To which I replied, I hope so. The patrons have been amazing. So have you. I'm so moved by the support. To which Kim Silvio replied, and reading this, it just feels like the knife being twisted into my back, but I want you all to have the context. I've always told you that your work means so much to people and that your work is an amazing legacy, making your life and contributions so worthwhile. I hope this experience has cemented the fact that people appreciate you and what you do for others. Life is never perfect and we can never have exactly what we want. You have helped so many to improve their lives. I'm sure your audience will be happy to give you time to reflect and sort out the areas of your life that you would like to improve. So this is the sort of language that Kim Silvio was coming out with. I'm going to say weeks, days, if not weeks, after I'd shared everything that I've shared with you. And in the aftermath of my darkest time on this planet, when I really, really did feel like, that life is completely pointless, which I still grapple with, to be honest. Now,
It's going to stop in a little bit, but I just think this is a good place to pause here. You said that you were trying to be supportive.
Yeah.
That does not matter in any of this.
No.
What he is saying, what he's saying is that abuse victims, other people who see things that are wrong, they're not allowed to change their mind. You have to be loyal to the leader, and you are not allowed to change your mind.
Yeah, that's definitely a potential. What I will say about this is that there's a lot more to that part of the story. Excuse me, my battery's going flat. There's a lot more to the story that I can't divulge in respect of that particular matter, and the context of what I was saying about, making the necessary changes in his life. I can't comment about that because that would breach Gianna's privacy, and I'm not going to do that. What I will say is, and I stand by the comments that I made in the first place, the value of his work is incredible. I'll never, ever, no one will ever change my mind or tell me otherwise. And I respect everyone's right to believe whatever they want, but that is my opinion. And I was hoping that he would be able to make the changes that are necessary for him to, to have a valuable contribution in the future that's, free of that question.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to comment any further than that.
Yeah, and he also before talked about how his Patreon campaign did great when he announced what was going on. So he was accepting funds based on people thinking you're going to get away, you need a break. You know, Faded Apostate in his video said something very good again, which is if he would have been scrupulously honest to not have any skeletons in his closet, and he would have told his viewers, I'm going to go to Thailand and I may engage with sex workers there, would his Patreon campaign have been nearly as good? If he was going to be scrupulously honest and not have any skeletons in his closet, would you as a viewer who donated money to him have donated money if he would have said that? That's what viewers need to ask themselves.
So I replied to that last message. I want to believe that, but I'm also mindful that I'm in a community of people who are trying to leave behind an incredibly judgmental mindset, and some will do so more successfully than others. For example, right, full disclosure, I was pissed at Javi for going quiet on me during this period.
I don't even know why.
Because Javier Ortiz is basically my best friend. And for whatever reason, he kind of went quiet during this whole period. And it perplexed me. So I bitched about him a little bit. But I just want to say, for the record, he's since been amazing. Okay. So, but at the time I wasn't happy. For example, Javi doesn't know as much detail as you both, but he's been very sporadic in whatever interest he's shown in my situation. I sense I'm letting him down in some way. I'm sure if that's the reaction of what I assume to be a close friend, others will be similar. To which Kim Silvio replied, the community doesn't need to know your personal business. If the public knew the conduct of some lawyers and barristers I know, there would be a public hanging in Martin Place. The only people and opinions that matter are yours. Deanna's, Jessica, and Julia. Javi may just be processing what you've told him and may not know what to say. He's quite diplomatic, unlike producer Bob and I, who just say what we think, usually uncensored.
So,
Usually.
yeah, this is something else that I think is very important to this video that he's made, which is he is admitting that he knows if this information gets out, there's going to be very judgmental people who will judge him for this, right or wrong. That's for viewers to decide. But he knows. He's saying he understands that what he did could have even caused his best friend to turn on him because of what he did. He's saying he understands this. He knows if it gets out, that it will be a problem for him. Then he also tells the audience what Kim said, which is, I speak my mind. So he also knows that you will speak uncensored, Kim.
And I have done many a time.
Yeah.
I think it's fairly well documented. Again, the only comment I'll make in respect of that matter is that I had, at that point, reason for belief and some expectation or some hope, rather, not expectation, but hope that circumstances would have been different and that he would have taken responsibility and that it wouldn't be necessary for me to do what I did.
Yeah.
In speaking out publicly. And I'm not speaking about that anymore.
Yeah. And I think it's also important, when you told him that, some of the things that people do in their private lives would get, people, there'd be a public hanging. So he's also going, I understand that when things in my private life become public, it causes a hurt to my career and it can cause harm to my career. Because remember this later on in this video. I know there's lots of things I keep telling you to remember, but you'll see. We'll replay exactly what he said right after he claims that that this shouldn't be happening to him later on.
I'm dealing with a lawyer, so I need to be ultra careful.
Why? So again, he brings up that he's dealing with a lawyer. He has to be extra careful. Why does he have to be careful if he's the honest, truthful one?
And in it, I said, let me find the message. I still have no clue what the next chapter of my life will look like in practice, but I know I love my two girls and want to stick around for them. I know my work helps people. I know I love Deanna, even though there are obvious problems in our relationship. It's all so complicated, but hopefully I'll get there. And to that, Kim replied, that's a lot. I think that there are sunny days ahead. I'm sure no matter what happens with you and Deanna, you will both love those girls and do your best to raise them well, together or apart. No quick decisions are needed. Just enjoy the space to clear your head and the answers will come. To which I replied, thanks, Kim. I really hope so. You're certainly being a massive help, so thank you.
So you stated again in this message, which he's just read, that you think he's going there to clear his head. That's what he's saying. I'm going there to go clear my head after I've just been caught using sex workers and my wife has found out. And again, he goes to a country known for sex workers and by his own admission, engaged with sex workers there. So just bringing this up again.
She was being a massive help at that point. It literally, it was a total U-turn. It was literally one day she was being really, really helpful, and then she flipped to being super unhelpful. And finally, we are where we are now.
So one day you were helpful, then the next you just flipped. Dr. Jekyll, Mrs. Hyde, just sudden. He doesn't know why. He has no clue why. Now watch what happens just about 20 seconds later into the video after he has said this.
Where it all changed was when, and I'm not going to name him, but there was an individual
but you do.
who attempted suicide.
So he literally says, one day there was just a U-turn. I don't know what happened. 10 seconds later, he's going, where the change happened was, and then he's going to go on and explain where the change happened that he claimed he had no clue that you were just a estrogen-crazed woman who just suddenly flipped your emotions. Now all of a sudden, where it changed was, so that I found that just, it was crazy. I mean, come on.
At that point, I was hanging on for dear life. I was just trying to hang on.
Trying to maintain.
Around about New Year's Eve, I don't know the exact date or time, but an individual attempted suicide who was an XJW, and it all happened on Twitter. So it was very public. And people were very, very concerned about this individual, and the police were
contacted. That's the text message I received.
The police met up with this individual, and as far as I know, gave him the assistance he needed, or he's since been receiving assistance. So this happened on Twitter, and this is the message that I woke up to in Thailand. After he saw your distress on social media, he became distressed and attempted suicide. He is okay, thank goodness. His choices are not your fault at all, Lloyd. At all is in capital letters. However, I want you to know, as people think the world of you, and whether you like it or not, they look up to you. People have no idea what is going on in your life. They hear mental health and can automatically relate and associate their issues with yours. They can also think, well, if Lloyd can't do it, what's the point of me even trying? And then things like last night can happen. Is it fair to you? No. Is it reasonable that you people should view you this way, or that people should view you this way? I guess she means. No. Should people hold you in this regard and have such expectations? No. Does it happen? Yes. It happens, therefore it's relevant. I gather this message may make you angry. However, I cannot stand by and watch this happen without having my say. You are an advocate. People care about you. You give people hope. People look up to you. And then in capital letters, Kim has written, get the fuck off social media. End capital letters. Or tell people exactly what's going on so they understand and don't conclude that they are, quote, feeling the same as you, end quote, exclamation mark.
So, again, let's give a little context. Did you just suddenly send this overnight with no speaking to him at all?
No, we'd spoken about it and text about it previously, and there's evidence to demonstrate that as well. That's not here right now, but I think he's acknowledged it in other areas as being correct. I'd spoken to him, I'd talked to him about it, I'd asked him politely, and I'd said it nicely. And look, I could have chosen better words, I'm not going to lie. Probably shouldn't have used that language, but I was that frustrated by that stage. And, you know, in that context, you can see now that I was like, people don't know what's going on in your life. People are assuming, and you're not the same situation as them, you know. So either get the fuck off social media, excuse my language, or you know, or get off, or tell people so that, you know, that they know that they know that they're not like him, you know, because people were upset. People were contacting me saying, Lloyd's, you know, distressed, and Lloyd's is and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get him to see over a number of days, couldn't get him to see what I was trying to say. And I was frustrated. I did swear. I knew he was going to be cranky. By that stage, I didn't care because I was just not up for it. I was just not up for just his selfishness. I'm sorry, it's just selfish. It's self-consuming. It's I don't even know. I haven't got words, but I couldn't. I was done with it.
And you made it very clear that even though it wasn't fair to him, his voice, having so many followers, it does have an impact. You know.
Yeah, and you know, the thing that really gets me is that obviously in my interview with him back in 2019, I think June, you know, that does touch on an important nerve, because one of the problems that I had when I woke up, and I am a survivor of suicide attempt, in case anyone hasn't been told or seen my video or whatever, and someone did make the allegation to my daughter, and it's in the interview where I say that, you know, had it not been for the fact that I survived, my daughter would have lived the rest of her life thinking and believing, because someone told her that you know, that it was her fault that I would have committed suicide, that it was her fault what I did. And you know, and so, you know, Lloyd knows very, very, very clearly how I feel about mental health and how I feel about that. And for him to now continue to allow that rhetoric of, you know, she was blaming me, what a hypocrite, that, I'm sorry, but that's just not okay. That is unacceptable. And I just want to make it very clear that I did everything I could within my power to demonstrate to him. And I don't know whether he didn't see it or he didn't want to. I don't care. That is what I did.
And let's keep in mind here, this was a real person going through a real issue. This wasn't you know, a fake scare or anything like that. This was a real person going through a real issue, who, whether it's fair or not to Lloyd, had been impacted by what Lloyd had said. And his issue
and others over a number of days were expressing concern.
And he doesn't seem to be worried about the people. He seems to be worried about whether or not he can post online. That seems to be
making ridiculous rhetorical arguments as, well, what if posting on social media is part of my therapy? Well, it's not. You know, and I'm trying to be diplomatic about it. For God's sake, you know, I can't work with that. Like, it's just, it's irresponsible. I'm sorry, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how I felt waking up to this message and essentially being told, you're not responsible for an X Jehovah. I'm going to wait for the cameras to come back on. You can imagine how I felt being told, you're not responsible for an XJW attempting suicide, but you sort of are. That's kind of how I read this. Maybe it's just me, but that's how I read this. I was in the midst of a meltdown, still am. In the midst of a mental health crisis, still am. Had recently been suicidal. And someone in my meltdown support group was, number one, ordering me what to do. Number two, suggesting I might need to divulge private information about myself. And number three, suggesting, or at least implying, that I need to think about other people's mental health. And if someone attempts suicide due to what they have or haven't seen me say in a video, that's my fault.
Yes, you
I'm
do.
just going to say, you do need to consider somebody else's mental health.
Yes.
I'm gonna be quiet because I'm getting annoyed.
That's how I read this. So I replied, I don't like being ordered around like this, Kim. Not only am I in no way responsible for what Adam did,
which he said he wasn't going to name him, and then he just names him. He just says his name, even though he said he wasn't going to name him, which also caused the person to have to make a Reddit post, by the way. So we're supposed to protect Lloyd's privacy, but Lloyd doesn't have to protect anyone else's privacy. Let that one sink in.
But also, it's not like I've been posting about my problems in real time. I will stay the fuck on social media, thanks, and continue to post responsibly. What you're essentially advocating for is for mental health to be a taboo, and that the bigger your audience is, the more you need to shut up about it. It's a shame you see it that way, but I disagree.
Now, nothing you said to him in that last text that he said you said says any of this. I think when we post this to YouTube, you can start going back and looking at what was actually said versus what Lloyd is saying here and how he is painting this to viewers that are paying him donations during this video, by the way.
So that was my initial reaction, and my responses became increasingly diplomatic.
Now notice he doesn't give your reaction to this. And notice how
when you get the chance, sorry, excuse me, but when you get the chance, read what he says. If you tell me that's diplomatic, we need to have an English lesson.
So he didn't say that she said, okay. He omits that fact of what her response is, even though you're supposed to be a crazed woman that's just out to get him, that has suddenly made a U-turn, that has suddenly turned.
As the conversation continued. But that was the turning point. I was ordered off social media by Kim Silvio. I didn't take that advice. And subsequently, I think the next day, Kim Silvio and producer Bob, who is good friend.
So I'm pausing this here because, sorry, I think I put the wrong bit here. So ignore that.
Both quit JW Watch.
I should have put that before.
I have to say, it really, really messed with my head because at the time I was still reeling from this existential situation I found myself in on New Year's Eve. And then someone goes.
Oh, wait, I think that was, sorry. Let me go back here because this was after you had said, okay, I'm pretty sure. I think that's why I put that here. This is after she had said, okay, and supposedly she turned on him. and got so upset that he wouldn't post to social media, the relationship was essentially over. Yet she responds to him after he goes on his rant about her. Here's what you said, Kim. I'm sorry that you feel this way. I always have your back and will always tell you the truth. I respect your right to interpret my message however you choose. And then he said, I don't expect you to lie to me, Kim. You know that I value my input, but either what he did is my fault or it isn't. Bear in mind, it happened after I posted on Twitter telling everyone that I'm okay. Under your advice, value your input. So essentially what he's arguing is there's no gray area anywhere. That he bears absolutely no responsibility for anything that he does or say. It's never his fault. It's always whoever interpreted him wrong. And this, to me, reminds me of how a lot of elders view things, how the governing body views a lot of things. It's never their fault. It's just how you interpreted it. There's new light, the new interpretation.
And subsequently, I think the next day, Kim Silvio and producer Bob, who is good friends with Kim Silvio, both quit JW Watch.
Now, why didn't he give your response to this? What's the reason for not showing this? Why not show what Kim said? Okay, I've got your back. Why not show those things? What's the reason? And then the next day you quit, Kim, as he said, correct? Yep. And by this point you were just done with it.
Yeah. I told him. And we had a conversation.
Yeah.
And I told him why. And the reason I haven't shared it is because it's content in there that I don't feel comfortable sharing publicly.
Yeah.
I know people are going to hound me for that comment, but I have done my very best to protect Deanna from as much as I can. Whether I've done a good job or not is none of my business. That's up to everyone to determine for themselves.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, you have the receipts. One of the biggest ones was about the sex workers that we had discussed, but then Lloyd said what he said, so there's no reason to share some of these things. But just keep in mind, he's worried about her being a lawyer. He's claiming everything she's saying is untrue. Up until this point, has anything that Kim has said been untrue or made up about Lloyd? Has anything? So as a viewer, keep that in mind. Has anything she said, has it been untrue? She gave over the text that everybody could see. He didn't want to show the text for whatever reason. So just remember that, viewers.
I have to say, it really, really messed with my head, because at the time I was still reeling from this existential situation I found myself in on New Year's Eve. And then someone goes from calling me to see how I am and being in regular contact and being very friendly and reassuring to abandoning me. Not just quitting.
Take responsibility for your behavior.
What's that?
Take responsibility for your behavior.
Yeah.
I didn't just abandon him.
Yeah. And this is another text where you say, I do not believe it's your fault. I'm trying to encourage you to see how your actions can affect other people. And although it's unfair to you because of who you are and what you represent to the community, I think you need to be careful. Then Lloyd tries to claim that she's saying two things again at once. And then Kim says, I'm sorry. I can't say it any plainer than that. I assure you I am not against you. I am trying to look out for you. And then he says, telling me I need to modify my behavior because it caused someone to attempt suicide is not looking out for me, nor is it helpful. People, how can this be any more plainer? This man just said that telling him to modify his behavior because it caused somebody to commit suicide or attempt suicide is not helpful to him. If I cause somebody to attempt suicide, I damn well want to know what I did. I've had two friends that have killed themselves. Kim has been in this situation. You want to know. If I would have known, that I could have caused somebody's suicide and they did it, you know how guilty I would have felt? I would be thanking somebody, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that I could have caused that. But instead, this man is only worried about whether he can post on social media. I mean, this is excuse my language, a fucking disgrace. A fucking disgrace. That he is more worried about posting on social media than somebody else's mental health when he himself is playing the victim of mental health. When he himself is trotting out at every chance he can get how he was dealing with mental health issues, yet he has absolutely zero empathy for somebody who has tried to kill themselves. Now, why didn't he show this text? Why was this text not shown? I have a feeling I know why.
Just having nothing to do with me. It was a real, even to this day, the way it all went down is a real mindfuck, you know?
Yes, it's a real mindfuck that somebody has dealt with their own suicidal issues, would be upset that he has zero empathy for somebody who has just attempted suicide. Zero. Real mind.
And the irresponsibleness of his behavior, the way he was conducting himself was irresponsible. And as someone who understands the impact of mental health and how that can impact, and I had the utmost respect for him as an activist and for the work that he did, and I know how people view him, and I can't talk about it.
Yeah, what can you say to this?
It makes me think, well, who can I trust? You know, if someone can be saying all of the things that Kim Silvio was saying and then do an absolute 180.
Now here's some of the things that Kim was saying to him. You know, this person respects you. This person was distressed by what he perceived by what he perceived was you having a mental breakdown, and he became fearful that you may harm yourself. He reached out in concern for me. None of this is your fault or has anything to do with you. The point that I make is this, and most of this you would agree. People in the XJW community are vulnerable. They hold you in high regard and value your strength. They gain hope from you and that you will get through their struggles because you did. Is this fair to you? No. You are a human and a victim of this cult also. You have your own struggles, which are nothing like theirs. They hear mental health and associate their type of issues with yours. Their issues are not the same issues you are facing. I am attempting to try to explain how your actions can affect others. It is not your fault. I wanted you to know about his attempt to illustrate that this can happen. So Kim has stepped away from the video, but again, she's trying to explain to him that his actions have consequences. This is what she has been trying to explain to him. And again, his answer is, I don't fucking care. And his excuse is that Kim has just totally mind-fucked him. Total mindfuck as to why she would be upset that somebody attempted suicide and he seems to care nothing about that person who has tried to attempt suicide. It's just disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Who can I work with now? Who's safe to work with?
Yes, who can you work with, Lloyd? Who is safe to work with? Who will want to work with you after this train wreck of a video and where you've shown what appears to be your true colors here?
Who's safe to confide in now? No one. No one is. No one is. This is, I think, what really what I really struggle with here is this whole notion that if you have an audience, you're almost not allowed to have a mental health crisis. And if you do have such a crisis, you need to do it gracefully. You need to do it in a PR friendly way, you know?
No, you just need to think about how what you do can affect others. And you would think somebody suffering through a mental health crisis would totally get that, how other people's actions can affect them. That's what you would think. But here we are.
That was very much the impression I was given by the way Kim Silvio processed everything and framed her recommendation.
Did it look framed to be only she was worried about PR? Or was it framed that she was worried about a very real victim's life? I mean, this is just...
And also, in addition to that, the entire community, because
Yeah.
we are a vulnerable creature. Like, we are, as a community, we're vulnerable. And I just find it so offensive that he couldn't look at that as a factor.
Yeah. And by the way, again, he didn't have to say any of this. He didn't have to bring any of this up. He didn't have to air this person's laundry, whose suicide attempt, even though it was publicly on Twitter. You think that person wanted to relive this? You think they wanted this trudged up again in their life? Again, he expects complete privacy, but he doesn't care about other people's privacy. I would say that sounds a lot like an organization called the Watchtower. Good for me, not good for thee.
Just for seeing what other, yeah, maybe I should just skip to what Kim posted. Let's do that. So the post on Reddit, which again isn't visible anymore, here's what Kim, apparently, we're led to assume, Kim, who is a retired lawyer, I have to be very, very careful, but at least someone posting, pretending to be Kim, said the following. Some weeks back, Lloyd openly and without warning notified me of his infidelity and engagement with prostitutes on a very regular basis. It was maybe, I'm going to say, 2 or 3 months in between.
So he sarcastically says, very regular basis. But it was 2 to 3 months in between. You're unmuted, by the way. You're muted, by the way. Kim, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. If that's what if he wants to split hairs over that, then okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have an opportunity to do it on a regular basis. I'm not sure I would need to.
Now, that's a very weird thing to say. I didn't have an opportunity to do it on a regular basis. Normally, you would think that you would just go, I don't want to do it on a regular basis, but I don't have an opportunity. Now, he does later say, I don't know if I'd want to, but saying I don't have an opportunity to do it on a regular basis is weird.
So that part is factually untrue and libelous, I'm going to say.
Yeah. Remember what Kim said. The biggest hurdle to libel is the truth. And he's just admitted.
Don't threaten me.
Yeah. Well, let's keep watching, and we're gonna watch back what he says just a little bit after this.
Lloyd openly and without warning notified me of his infidelity and engagement with prostitutes on a very regular basis over many years. Many years? I think I'm going to say 3 or 4 years.
Many years? I'm going to say 3 or 4 years. Come on.
I'll dispute the fact that's not what he said. But if he wants to split hairs with me again, whatever.
And engagement with prostitutes on a very regular basis. It was maybe, I'm going to say 2 or 3 months in between. I would go to see sex workers. I think I'm going to say 3 or 4 years.
So 2 to 3 months in between over the course of 3 to 4 years. Now, I don't know if he means 2 to 3 months in between this year, what that range is, but it seems to indicate for 4 years, 2 to 3 months going to sex workers. Now, who would not view that as on a regular basis? Who is going to look at this and go, yeah, you weren't seeing them on a regular basis. It was only every 2 to 3 months for 3 to 4 years. That's all. I mean, Jesus Christ, as he said.
If that's many years, then fine. Amongst other matters that don't need to be specifically mentioned. Well, this doesn't need to be mentioned, does it? Kim continues, this was shortly before he notified the community that he would be taking a 2-month break from activism to reevaluate my life for the sake of my mental health. This is not correct. Damn well is, Kim. Damn well is. And also, you green-lighted the video where I said this.
Now, again, what he's implying is that you are not allowed to change your mind. You're not allowed to see other facts. You greenlit the video before you knew of all of these other issues. And because you greenlit it before you knew all of these other issues, you're not allowed to change your mind. You have to.
And as I said to you, there were other things that I was of the opinion, or not the opinion, the belief, based on things that I knew that I won't discuss. I believed that there was going to be change. So, you know, I didn't know about a lot of the things, but I did know about some things, and I believe that they would be addressed adequately at that time. That's what I believed.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't make much sense, but
Listened to the audio and told me that it was good. Lloyd had been in Thailand. Kim offered to help me make arrangements for Thailand.
incorrect.
And again, let's look at what he says he was in Thailand to do. He says he's going to take a mental health break because he has just been caught and admitted to using sex workers, being disloyal to his wife, by the way. Kim's supposed to have complete loyalty. He can be disloyal to his wife. He says he's going there to scuba dive, to get away from it all, to reassess his life. And then what does he do when he goes to Thailand? What is he having to say that he did when he was in Thailand?
This is not correct. Lloyd had been in Thailand making use of the many different facilities.
Now, when Lloyd says making use of the many different facilities, I should have showed more of the video there, but he's saying this in a very sarcastic way, as if he knows what you're implying, Kim. He knows what the implication is, but you're crazy. She's crazy. What is this supposed to mean? Yet he has to come out with this statement. I would have headed straight to Bangkok rather than Phuket and its stunning beaches. Suffice to say, not that it's anyone's business, but of those I met in Thailand, sex workers or otherwise, nobody was a minor by either Thai or U.S. law, and all were in their 20 years of age or older. So, you know, what facilities?
I'm getting to know the locals. And apparently I have to ignore the locals and ignore other tourists.
Now, and keep in mind, he says this knowing full well what the actual implication is. Knowing full well. Because even in the statement I just showed you, he quotes Kim's statement. So he knew full well what the implication was in this.
When I arrived in Thailand, I had to show everyone. Shortly after Christmas, only returning to Croatia a few days ago.
So he leaves for Thailand just shortly before Christmas. There is a conference where he's expected to be at on the 27th of December, and they cancel it because he says, sadly, due to Lloyd and his family currently being in isolation, he is no longer able to travel. That this was canceled because of COVID. This was a tweet that has been shared around, that this event had to be canceled because he had COVID and his family was in isolation. The truth, ladies and gentlemen, this guy always tells the truth to his viewers. Unscrupulous.
Can I just correct just a couple of
Yeah.
things? You just misspoke accidentally. He
Okay.
left shortly after Christmas, and
Yeah.
he didn't have COVID. They were in COVID isolation
Okay.
because of a close contact. I just want to
Okay.
I just want to be
Okay.
fair.
So this is legitimate. That he
No, that's not the COVID. The COVID isolation period had well and truly expired. It was only it was before that. He cancelled because they were not taking their trip to the UK or to Wales or wherever it was. No, it's not a legitimate cancellation. It's just there's a couple of facts in there that I just wanted to clarify. But the outcome is the same. The outcome is the same.
Yeah. He was at this point, he was more on his mental health break and not in isolation due to COVID.
Absolutely not. No.
Scrupulously honest.
I returned on the 19th of January. It has often been said that activists are happy for individuals to be Jehovah's Witnesses, providing that they know the whole truth about the organization. Lloyd's subscribers, support team, and patrons are not being given the correct information. No, they're not being given information that they're not entitled to, but they're being given correct information.
Again, he's unscrupulously honest. He is going to Thailand to scuba dive, to get away from it all, keep his mind off of it. And again, he has to put out a statement like this. So, again, was he being honest with his Patreons?
There are matters that he does not want the public to know about, justifiably, Kim, justifiably. Wanting rather to maintain a facade that appeals to those concerned. So I'm being shifty, I'm being sneaky. By keeping my personal and private life private, I'm being somehow surreptitious.
Yes, you are. You admitted it. He just admitted it right there. That he has to maintain a facade. That Kim was breaking. He just said it right there. So yes, he is being snaky. He is being shifty in this situation. And what did he say when she said making use of the facilities? He laughed and sarcastically made it like that implication was a complete fabrication, and then he has to come out with a statement.
Oh, so Lloyd Evans is exactly the same thing as a multinational organization watchtower in control of millions of people. Got it. I know.
Who said that?
Now, it wasn't said, but I just want to point out that Lloyd, look what he said. Now, he's saying he's not like the organization. Now, keep in mind, he has loads of followers. His followers have said unimaginable things to Kim for just telling the truth. They've said unimaginable things. I've been having to defend Kim on social media. People have been saying insane things to me. Thankfully, I haven't gotten death threats or anything like that. But what does Lloyd say? I am now unapologetically blocking on social media anyone who sympathizes with Kim, anyone who sympathizes with her, and her grossly judgmental, vindictive, surreptitious behavior. What Kim has done is the single biggest personal violation I have ever experienced. And it's hard to believe anyone will ever be able to top it. I generally shy away from your either for me or against me rhetoric. And I want to be clear that I am not asking people to take sides, even though you're saying you're going to block anyone who's sympathetic to her. I'm not telling anybody to take sides, but I'm going to block you if you're sympathetic with her. But if you use your social media platform to facilitate what is now being inflicted on me and my family, I don't want to see any of what you have to say showing up in my feed in the future. Now, this sounds a lot like how Jehovah's Witnesses can't even say hello to a disfellowship person, lest they get thrown before a committee and they get shunned. So the man who has advocated his whole life against shunning is going to block people for merely sympathizing, not saying that what she said is true, merely sympathizing. And many have gotten blocked for either asking a critical question or for saying that they believe Kim in this. But it's not, I'm not making you pick sides. That's what he makes clear. He's not making his audience pick sides. He's just saying that if you sympathize with her, you're out. You're out. Now, I think a lot of viewers who are X Jehovah's Witnesses, who have been shunned, who left, who went through loads of trouble when they did leave, for doing the right thing oftentimes, for telling the truth, for being honest, and going, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I can't stand the behavior that I am witnessing here. Who got shunned, this should make your stomach turn when you read something like this. I mean, again, another thing that just is just absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, this apparently I'm on a par with an organization that arranges the mass shunning of thousands of people.
Yes.
And the industrial scale cover-up of abuse. That's how bad I am. That's how bad I am for being unfaithful in the mind.
And again, it's not for being unfaithful. Many people will judge him for being unfaithful. It's the fact that he saw sex workers. It's the fact that where he saw sex workers has an effect on everyone else, has an effect on the people he claims to advocate for. That's what the big issue is. It's now about how he has no empathy for somebody who's just attempted suicide. These are the issues. The unfaithful bit is, a lot of people do it. People can sort of forgive that thing. What you can't forgive is when you are a public figure and you are ruining the reputation of yourself and others. That's what the issue really is for a lot of people.
Mind of King Silvio. To show his narcissistic behavior, deficit regard for the feelings of others, use of funding generated through his activism work to pay for prostitution, an industry known for the exploitation of women and minors, a solo non...
So, in case you just missed that, what I was showing was on his Patreon. He said, "Hey, your funds keep me doing this work." Now, he didn't explicitly say it's only going to be used on this work, but he did say it keeps me doing this. So people who are donating have the expectation that it's allowing him to do the work. If he was unscrupulously honest and said, your funds will help me pay for sex workers on a not regular basis, but 2 to 3 months over the next couple of years, would he have gotten as many funds? Would as many people donate it? And when we say that he went to an area that's known for exploitation, just read what this says. The data shows that child prostitution remains highly problematic in Thailand. In particular, there are certain parts of Thailand that are notorious for child prostitution, such as Pattaya, Patong, and Phuket, and the northern city of Chiang Mai, in which children from a group of ethnic minorities, often called hill tribes, remain particularly vulnerable. So in his statement, he goes, I would have gone to Bangkok if I would have gone for sex work. I wouldn't have gone to somewhere that isn't known for it. But this place is notorious for child sex work. And I'm not saying that no one should draw any lines here with who he saw at all, but it's notorious. And that's who a child sex abuse advocate decided to go see sex workers at, a place that's notorious for it. Again, if this comes out in a public hearing and nobody knows about it, how does this look? It's the optics. And I would postulate that he can never be around child sex abuse advocacy, at least for a long time, because this is so damning to the cause. And it is a slap in the face to abuse victims and people who worked hard to have him be a voice in that cause. That he's willing to do that. Let's not even talk. He also mentions, Kim, you mentioned that he doesn't care for others.
Mm.
You know, this says you don't care for others because you didn't care. You had to have known, but you didn't care. Somebody was committing suicide. You didn't care. Deanna's asked you not to talk about her. You don't care.
Mm.
He seems to not care about anybody or anything but himself, which is the number one trait of a narcissist.
And I would likely think that even to the point of, you know, where I've heard incorrect things stated about him in the media or social media forums, whatever, to Mad directly, I will correct. If something is said that's not true about him, and I know it to not be true, I will correct it.
Yeah.
He absolutely must have known that I was copying an absolute barrage of abuse for telling the truth. And even if he doesn't want to come out and say the truth, which he basically has, he did not make one attempt to stop
Yeah.
people from just being absolutely horrific to me.
Yeah.
And I would have thought that as a human being, that would have been knowing, and I'm very well, please do not be concerned for me, knowing that I am, I have bipolar disorder. Everybody that knows me knows. I'm fine, I'm well, I'm okay, but he doesn't know that. And he never once ever stopped to think this would affect me.
Yeah. Yeah. All he said is how it affects him.
That's it. It's all about Lloyd.
Yeah. It's all about him.
Mental health related trip to Thailand and failure to be honest in respect to the true reason for his absence would cause reproach to be brought upon his name and therefore must not be spoken about.
So I would say a lot of reproach has been brought upon his name because of his actions that he has done.
Mm-hmm.
That's before we're breaking down this video, and pointing out some of the other stunningly terrible things
Mm-hmm.
that have gone on. I would argue reproach is already on his name.
Mm-hmm.
That's another fact that you've stated that he refuses to accept.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently I have to account for how I spend my money when this is my job. So when a doctor receives money for helping people, apparently he needs to account for, what holidays he goes on, how he spends his money in his private time because he's helping people. Apparently, he doesn't.
So let's play what he said himself, Kim had said in a message to him after he just said doctors don't have to be accountable for anything that they do.
If the public knew the conduct of some lawyers and barristers I know, there would be a public hanging not in place.
So he understands that unethical, immoral activity can get people fired or worse. He understands this. Yet he just says, this wouldn't affect a doctor. Yeah, if a doctor was using funds from the hospital to get sex workers, they'd be fired. Or they would at least be exited really quick. They would be gone the minute that became public. And especially if it came out that they were using sex workers in Thailand, because the first things people would ask is, what kind of sex workers do you go to Thailand for?
Mm.
So he understands all of this. He also understood that this is going to come out to a quote unquote judgmental group of people. And he understood that his best friend may have even been judgmental about this. So he understands all of this by his own words.
Apparently, I owe everybody an explanation for how I spend my wages.
Yes, you owe us an explanation for this. Absolutely. Everyone deserves an explanation for this.
it boggles my mind. And surely anyone who's sat through the messages that Kim was sending, both before and during my trip in Thailand, you'll see just a total U-turn. She goes from being kind and understanding and compassionate to literally wanting to destroy me over this.
And again, at no point did you ever say you wanted to destroy him.
No, I didn't. I want people to make an informed decision for themselves, whether or not they are prepared to support his work, whether they're prepared to put him forward for media opportunities, whether they're prepared to put him forward for advocacy work within the community. It's not for me to say, it is for me to say, here's the facts, you make your own damn decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And suggesting that I have misled people when I haven't. I haven't misled anyone. I've just kept private things that are private or should be private. It is hoped that this information will give you the same opportunity that Lloyd gives to all Jehovah's Witnesses about their religion, the truth. You are being deceived by this hypocritical, well, that's rich.
Yes, it's so rich that somebody who claims to advocate on behalf of sex abuse victims would be using sex workers in Thailand, which is known for child exploitation. That's rich. Among the other things that he seems to be very hypocritical about, you've witnessed in this video.
This is not correct. Lloyd had been in Thailand making use of the many different facilities and getting to know the locals.
Again, scrupulously honest, not being hypocritical at all. Right there, he's trying to sort of make it like Kim is crazy for suggesting this. Yet he has to come out with a statement like this.
Dishonest and misogynistic man. Apparently I'm misogynistic. Where's that come from?
I would argue that while he may not have said anything overtly misogynistic, setting a woman up who's telling the truth as a victim, making her out to be crazy, making her out to be making up anything that she can. Our society has very strong underpinnings in misogyny. And these are the things misogynistic people say about women. And I just want to say, I come from the South in the United States. I grew up with these things being pushed on me. Thankfully, my mom and dad were very respectful, taught me to have respect for women. But I've also probably said something in my past that was inadvertently misogynistic, or blamed a woman for something that she didn't deserve. I feel bad about that, but this is the reality, that he is doing things that are overtly misogynistic, that many men do to women, that they're crazy, they're hormonal. You can't listen to them. They're a vile, disgusting person.
Gossiping,
yeah, they're gossipy. Yet all she did was tell the truth. That's all she did. That's all you did, Kim, was tell the truth.
And misogynistic as well, apparently. Do you know why I think Kim has said that? I think she said that because I didn't accept her recommendation to get the fuck off social media.
Now that also, he's saying, you're only calling me misogynistic because I didn't accept your recommendation.
Mm.
He's refusing to acknowledge what he just earlier acknowledged was the real problem, what pushed you over the edge, which was a man attempting suicide and him not caring. Yet now he's painting you, Kim, to be a crazy person who just didn't like that, who couldn't take that a man didn't accept what a woman had to say.
Which is just rubbish, because him by his own admission and in the messages earlier, it clearly shows that he has taken my advice on something. So,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, we've had fights about many a thing in the past and I've not won. So for him to draw that conclusion that I'm saying he's misogynistic simply on the fact that I didn't listen, that to me is just misogyny in itself. I'm sorry. I'm going to call it what it is.
Yeah.
I think basically all of this stems from her being, her feeling put out because I didn't follow her recommendation. And she probably interprets that as misogynistic because I ignored her as a woman. I don't know.
Again, because when you ignore a woman, her natural reaction is to make up lies and go crazy, people. But I'm not misogynistic. I'm just telling you what women do. I mean, again, lots of things for viewers to judge for themselves, but it seems pretty much like you're spot on to me, Kim.
So much of what Kim has said on Reddit is unrecognizable from truth.
It's unrecognizable from truth. Much of what you said. Now, viewers, if you stuck around for this long, hopefully you have. Sorry it's gone on so long. Has Lloyd been truthful or has Kim been truthful? Which one has been more truthful? And which one has said things that are unrecognizable from truth? I think it's pretty clear who's been honest and who has not been honest.
And what Kim gets right, she knows because I took her into confidence.
So she's been completely dishonest, but what she gets right are the things that I've told her, which are the meat of the bone on this. Unrecognizable from truth, but what she has gotten truthful are the things that I've told her.
Which I find incredibly arrogant, just for the record.
Yeah.
How dare you be so arrogant to say that I elected to, grace her with this information, so she should have been. I mean, where's consent come into this? Like, come on.
Yeah, well, consent seems to not matter for many things that he's done.
And for days, if not weeks, Kim led me to assume that everything was fine and there was nothing untoward happening, because there wasn't.
Now remember that. There wasn't anything bad happening. I was spotless. I was completely moral and ethical. There was nothing bad happening. Then he has to put out a statement like this because he was completely honest and nothing bad was happening and there were no skeletons in his closet.
It feels as though purely by virtue of the fact that I've disagreed with Kim on something, namely whether I'm to blame for someone attempting suicide.
Now, again, we read this earlier. At no point does she blame him for this. All you say, Kim, is, hey, your actions have effects. It's not fair. It sucks. But the reality is that he did this based on something that you said. And what was Lloyd's reaction to it? I don't care. It's not my business. You're just trying to shut me up and censor me.
And what about me? What about my needs? My needs are more important than his, and they're more important than other people in the community that he might be affecting or was affecting. He didn't give a rat's backside.
Yeah.
It feels like Kim has felt butthurt, to put it bluntly.
Okay. Now this he's adding on top to homophobic. I'm not gonna go too hard on this, but using the term butthurt for this, for a very serious matter, and this to me was also, it's a strange term to use. I know a lot of people use it. I know they do, but butthurt has certain implications to it, and it just felt very much like it was a strange phrase to me to use. But
and especially towards a married woman, just
yeah,
for
yeah. And as you can see, she's so upset. She's so completely out of her mind. You know, she's done a complete 360 here, which is, I'm not going to argue about it. I gave you my opinion. I hope that you'll do the right thing.
And that's caused her to leave. And maybe with weeks having gone by since then, Kim is scrambling around for other reasons to dislike me or other reasons to destroy me. Maybe she feels conflicted at the way she abandoned me when I was most in need, when I was at my literally darkest hour in my life.
So he had no problem abandoning somebody else who was in their most darkest hour of their life. I mean, you know, abandon could be the wrong word, but he had no care for somebody else who was in the darkest moment of their lives. A man who is supposedly should be able to empathize with this, had no care for somebody who attempted suicide based on words that Lloyd said. He had no care for that person.
And you know, the other thing that bothered me about this is that, firstly, I didn't abandon him lightheartedly. You know, I couldn't help him because he couldn't get out of his own damn way to help himself at that point. So I can't help him. The other thing is I question why he feels like it's my dovere in Italian, my duty, my responsibility to support him. He has a family. He has Javier. He has friends. He and I are work colleagues. You know, he imposed himself on myself and on producer Bob, which is even worse. And I find that just to be so arrogant again, that he's now, you know, playing the victim because I couldn't support him anymore because he couldn't help himself. And that's my fault. And I'm going to feel guilty about that. No, I'm not going to feel guilty. I did what I could. He is a grown man with a family. He's not my friend as in that nature. We didn't have that type of relationship. He required that of me.
And did you push him to sleep with somebody outside of his marriage?
No.
Did you push him to go to a sex worker?
No.
Did you push him to say all of this?
No.
So I would ask the viewers again, who is to blame for all of his actions? And who has taken absolutely no responsibility for his actions? You know, only one person in this conversation has not taken any responsibility for their actions.
I was dropped. And her solution to the way she feels is to not just throw me under the bus, but to throw my family under the bus, because this impacts on all of them.
Again, no responsibility. It was his actions that impacted his family. It was not Kim's actions. She wasn't controlling him. By his own accord, he can't control himself. He gave up a lot of private information that was not out there. He kept talking about his wife after she said not to talk about it. The man has taken no responsibility. The closest thing he's taken to responsibility is saying how he hates that he did this. He doesn't say he's sorry. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't seem to show any remorse or guilt. He just says, I hate it.
And I promised Deanna I would say as little about her as possible, but I will just...
I promise to say as little as possible, but let me add one more thing.
Read one thing she said on WhatsApp just before I went on YouTube. She said, I will vomit.
Now, is that something any loving husband will do? She's literally said, I will vomit if you go on YouTube. And your answer to this is to spend over an hour, discussing your private lives. And then you have the fucking audacity, excuse my language, to read that text. You read that text online that you're saying she will vomit. You are literally telling this woman, you do not care. You do not care about her feelings. What you're reading this for, God knows why. But this again, for anyone watching this, his wife just told him she will vomit when he goes on YouTube and asks not to be talked about, and he decides to share the text where she says that. That's his answer to her. Despicable.
I will vomit. That was how Deanna reacted when I sent her the Reddit.
Now he changes his story, but either way, why would you read that text when you know this woman is feeling this way? It's incredible. And sorry to get heated about that, but it's just crazy.
I've got to answer them. My subscribers deserve an answer, and my patrons deserve an answer. So that's why, even though it's been very, very difficult for me to do this, and I feel like I feel like my privacy has been grossly invaded, and I resent being in this situation strongly. I didn't have any choice.
Absolutely no apology, absolutely no remorse. He just says, I shouldn't have to be in this situation. I just didn't have any other choice.
He did.
Yeah. Of course he did.
Kim knows what she knows because I took her into confidence, and I'm sure I said during the Zoom call that this obviously stays between us, And to producer Bob's credit, I should have actually seen the warning signs, because when they both quit, I specifically said to both of them, it goes without saying, or words to the effect of, it goes without saying that you should keep everything that I've shared with you in confidence confidential. And to producer Bob's credit, producer Bob said, absolutely, I'll keep everything in confidence. It should have been a red flag that Kim refused to say that.
So again, he has admitted on camera in the video that Kim did not agree to keep it confident. And then he plays the victim as if he didn't know, as if how could he have known that any of this was going to happen? She just turned on me.
Is prostitution legal in Croatia? But this is the burning question. Is it, Truth Seeker?
It is for your Patreons. And here is why, because this is from the community guidelines. You are not allowed to use funds on illegal activities. If in Croatia sex work is illegal, he is not allowed to use those funds for sex work in Croatia or in Thailand. This is very clear in their community guidelines. You cannot use their money that has been donated to facilitate a crime, which he has just admitted to. Whether or not Croatia or Thailand enforce it, it doesn't matter. He's just admitted earlier and in his releases that he has used the money on an illegal activity and that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What he does with his money is his business. But it does matter, and it matters to Patreon because they want to protect their consumer base and they want to protect their business. And when he says it doesn't affect anybody else, it affects their business. So that's at least one entity that this affects beyond him and his family.
This is the burning question we need to be asking right now. That's the sort of thing that really messes with my head, that people ask that sort of thing. I will just say, and I promised Deanna I would say as little as possible.
Again.
What do I say now? I'm obviously back home in Croatia, and things aren't back to normal. Neither myself nor Deanna necessarily want things to go back to normal. But we're
Now he has just said something that, again, did he clear this with her? Did he clear with her that it's okay to talk about what the future holds for them too? That she's not okay with how things are? Did he clear that with her? So now again, it's fine for him to invade her privacy. It's fine for him to invade everybody else's privacy, but for him, we have to keep everything private.
we're figuring out what's going to happen next. That's all I'll say.
It's more than I said.
Yeah.
Noam Eldridge, because apparently Kim's made a YouTube video now. Who knew that Kim is passionate enough to make YouTube videos all of a sudden?
God
Just
forbid.
watched Kim's YouTube video. She's trying to get people to not support your Patreon and YouTube. Yeah, this is the
Now listen to what he says.
the mindset, unfortunately, that I've been up against from the very beginning. Is that if you don't meet the expectations of certain XJWs and you don't fulfill their needs or requests, or you don't agree with them in some way, or you disappoint them in some way, it's not just a case of, oh, well, you go your way, I'll go mine. Let's agree to disagree. It's, I'm going to destroy you.
Now, had he watched that video? No. I mean, clearly, if somebody said just watched her video, if he did, then he's lying. Because at no point did Kim say, I'm here to destroy you. At no point did she even do this, trying to get people to stop using his Patreon. She said, do whatever you want. Just understand what I said is true. And again, I ask, who's trying to destroy who here? One person told the truth. The other one is making wild claims and accusations. One person told the truth, which he's had to step back on over and over again and release after update. Because of that truth, up to what she has said.
I want you as an activist to no longer be a thing. So I'm going to make that my mission, you know?
At no point has this been your mission, Kim. And at no point have you said that it's
No.
your mission.
No.
Which really, it says a lot, doesn't it? It's quite chilling. She's already done her damage. She's already forced me into a situation where I have to talk about incredibly personal things in front of thousands of people on a live stream. Oh, actually, that's not enough. The Reddit post isn't enough. I'm going to jump on YouTube as well. Watchtower's cover-up of child abuse wasn't enough for her to create her own video content. Shunning and the suicide that causes wasn't enough for her to make her own YouTube content. Lloyd Evans having consenting sex with other adults, that's enough to bring King Silvio onto YouTube.
Now, we established earlier that's not why you got onto YouTube. You got onto YouTube because people didn't believe it was you. That's why you got onto YouTube. Then you never said any of the things that he said.
No.
And as we've just shown, he has absolutely zero problem shunning. He has absolutely zero empathy for somebody who had just attempted suicide. So this is what they also call projection. He's projecting what he does onto somebody else to make them look bad.
The other thing that I do want to say about this is that Lloyd is always saying, do what you can do for activism. You know, if not everybody can do what he does. He knows damn well I don't have the technical skills, as does everybody that knows me. I have bloody enough trouble staying on the internet, for God's sake. But, he knows that I don't have the technical ability to do what he does. But I just think it's absolutely disgraceful, an absolute slap in my face that all of the work that I have done for him, I have never, ever once said, no, I'm not available to do a 2-hour Watchtower in Focus episode. I'm not available for this, or I'm not available. I've always made myself available, and I do what I can do. And for him to say that is just a slap in my face for everything that I've done. And you know what? He can, you know, whatever.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to find a lot of people that will work for him now. Unfortunately, I feel, or not unfortunately.
But again, I said in my video, I don't even care if you want to work for JW Watch. I don't care. Do it with an informed opinion. People would not have known how I felt if he hadn't made that video.
Yeah.
So, you know,
and
people can
this
do what they want. Make an informed decision.
Yeah, and this is what often happens with people in power. Blame the whistleblower. Don't accept responsibility for yourself. You know, and when I was
and then just shit all over them.
Yeah, when I was 6 or 7 years old and my brother told on me for doing something bad, and I went to my parents and said, but he told on me. They didn't go to my brother, you're in trouble. They said, it doesn't matter who told on you. You weren't supposed to be doing this. This is a lesson we learn as little kids.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
What more do I need to say?
A lot.
That's what I've been up against for years, that sort of mindset. Shame on you. Shame on you, Kim. It was bad enough that you abandoned me when I was at my absolute lowest. That was bad enough. But for you to try to destroy me, even though you clearly were fine with everything, to the point of even offering to help me sort things out on the internet with my entry requirements for Thailand. And now this.
Now, I mean, if you've made it this far and you've watched this whole stream, this is absolutely outrageous. At no point has he accepted responsibility. At no point has he apologized. At no point did he show empathy for a suicide victim. He has name called. He has hurled wild claims. Kim has told the truth. It's obvious she's been telling the truth. But he has the audacity to, after seeming to indicate he never watched a video, he never saw the video, he doesn't know what's on it. If he saw the video, then he lied and said that Kim was doing something that she didn't. But based off of that, he has the audacity to go, shame on you. Shame on you. Not shame on me for letting down my Patreons, letting down my audience, letting down X Jehovah's Witnesses, letting down child abuse survivors. No shame on me, only shame on you for daring to let these people know about this. Shame on you. This should tell viewers exactly what they need to know about this person's mindset and how they are trying to manipulate this conversation to weaponize an audience against Kim, who has, again, done nothing but told the truth. And people are welcome to try to poke holes in her story. Lloyd seems to not want to bother. And in fact, he's only backed up her story. So I would say Lloyd should be pointing the finger at him when he's saying shame on you.
Oh, she's here.
Now, Kim, you show up.
Well, you certainly pretended to be. You certainly pretended that you were fine with everything, didn't you?
She didn't pretend. She was trying to work with him. There was no pretending going on. And he himself says he knows what put her over the edge. He knows what made the turnaround. Yet now he sits and says, you pretended, and acts as if there was no reason for it. It just came out of thin air. What were you going through when you joined this? What's the story behind this?
So I had been drinking. I did, oh, goodness me, I had been copping barrages, and we had a couple of drinks, but my phone got confiscated, so I got off pretty quick. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry. That's the truth.
Put up a damn good show for days or weeks that you were fine with everything. Not once did you say. You even said that my taking a break video was good.
Now, imagine if everybody used this for judgments on everything. You know, imagine I go out and I go sexually assault somebody, and I am an abusive type of person, and my partner knows about it, but she's afraid to say something, or maybe she just, you know, puts up with it. But finally she has enough and tells on me and says, here's what this guy did. Then I go to her and I say, you were fine with everything. This is what people say to rape victims. You were wearing the skirt. You must have been okay with it. You waved to me and smiled. You had the conversation with me. You seemed to be okay with us starting kissing. It was only until after I started throwing myself on you that you suddenly changed. This is a ridiculous tact to take, especially for somebody who understands how abuse actually works. A ridiculous tact to take.
And now this. Isn't it interesting how people can change their minds?
Yeah, it is kind of crazy how people change their minds. People change their minds every day. I mean, God forbid. Now we're going to come up on something very interesting here in a second.
Admit what I said is true. I've said exactly what I think about your statement, and I've also said what is and isn't true. Because there are things in it that are true, and there are things in it that are not true.
Scrupulously honest, what was untrue? The only thing he can debate is whether or not he's a narcissist and a misogynist.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
That probably was an opinion of mine, but
yeah.
But other than that, everything else is 100% provable.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
Now, if you notice,
90.
He has got a comment that says, "Kim, you are a snake." He leaves this on for an abnormally long length of time.
She needs to bring down the supervillain Lloyd Evans, who is...
Now, Kim never said, "You're a villain. I'm out to get you." She never, name called him. She didn't go on the stream and say any of that stuff. Yet he accuses her of doing it. But he's fine with a comment staying up there that says, "Kim, you are a snake." He put that on there. These things don't just pop up. He put it on there. He decides when this goes off. Yet he keeps it on for a substantially long time.
As a cult that,
and then claims he forgot, even though he's clearly looking at the screen.
Families and arranges for people, persuades people to die by refusing blood. That's the level of my evil, and we should all thank Kim Silvio for bringing it to the world's attention. She's done everyone a huge service. So,
yeah, she has done everyone a huge service. She did bring this to the attention. People needed to know this, just like they need to know when the leaders of the Watchtower are doing bad things with the funds that they raise. I mean,
that's all I have to say, really. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. It's been really frustrating, actually. Tibor offered to come.
That was the only time he said sorry. Sorry for the technical difficulties. He didn't say sorry for letting you down. He didn't say sorry for the attacks on Kim. He didn't say sorry for doing something that is ethically, that many of you view ethically and morally wrong. He never said sorry. The only time the man says sorry is for technical difficulties. That's the only time he says sorry. Technical difficulties. By the way, he leaves up the comment that, Kim, you're a snake. He leaves that comment up. He's not sorry for that.
Before I went on air to sort things out, and I decided to soldier on alone, and now I regret not asking him to come, because it's been a massive distraction doing this live stream with all the technical problems. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to have that snake comment on for quite so long.
Sorry, I didn't mean to have it on for so long. Even though he was clearly looking at the screen,
Okay.
he made the point to have it on. He's deciding what comments go up there.
And I just ask everyone to be patient. I'm going to go back into my hiatus now, and I'm not going to say anything else. I feel like I've overshared. My video's frozen again. I feel like I've overshared already. It's very much a TMI situation, isn't it? I literally don't have anything to hide anymore. It's quite liberating in a way, although
he's been unscrupulously truthful. He has absolutely nothing to hide anymore. Yet he had to come out with a statement like this.
And he's still lying. And
Yes.
even still lying.
Yeah. Yeah. Which the truth about that will eventually come out too, I'm sure. But we're just sticking to this video for now. But he had to come out with a statement like this. He was being completely honest with all of you. It's liberating. You know, that's the other thing. He blames Kim for destroying his life, yet at the end of this says it's liberating for him. So should he thank her for liberating him, or should he hate her for ruining his life? Which one is it? Which one?
So again, I resent being put in this situation. So yeah, I'll let the audience adjudicate, you know. Are things as grave as Kim would like you to believe? You know, you be the judge.
Yeah. So he's willing to adjudicate for the viewers, which is exactly what we're willing to do, which is exactly what Kim stated she wanted to do in her video. You be the judge. You be the judge based on
You make the informed decision.
Yeah, based on everything that you have seen now in this video, and later on, if you can get through the 3 hours, because we went on much longer than we expected to. You be the judge. And with that,
and I really just want to say one thing. You know, if you've changed your mind and you have an informed opinion and you have a different opinion to what you had previously, or you know, something that's been said in this live stream prompts you to think, oh, look, you know, I didn't handle that in the past. You know, there's a whole graveyard of XJW activists who have been subjected to this type of behavior. There's records, histories, it's documented evidence. But don't believe me. Go look it out for yourself. And if you've been unkind or, you know, complied with the rhetoric that you know, Lloyd has put out, for example, to Kim and Mikey for being crazy, to Mark and Cora for being who knows what, for the VAA for being whatever they were, or the AWA, AWAA, you know, I could go on and on and on, you know, identifying all the names in the graveyard. If you have been unkind, don't come and apologize to me. Go and apologize to those people that you've been unkind to. And you know, it's time that we don't have to listen to the loudest voice in the room. There are lots of activists. You know, there's young ones, the Shunned Experience, Truth Hurts, Jexit, John Maple, Eve 2.0, X Cult Baby. I could go on and on for hours. You know, we don't have to have the loudest voice in the room being heard. You know, that's not to say you can't listen to him. I don't care. Do what you want. But for goodness sake, start thinking and start being your own person and stop labeling people. If you don't like Mikey's rants, don't watch him. but don't be nasty. Don't call him crazy. And if someone calls him crazy, you make your own decision. You know, because I can tell you, if we could all appreciate everyone's difference of opinion and not just take the word of one person and really use critical thinking for ourselves, this community will be a much better place. So go and have a look in the graveyard. Don't listen to me. Find out for yourself.
I think this could not end on a better note than what you just said, Ken. So thank you so much for being brave enough to come on and show your face and explain your story. Even though many people have been out to get you, it's extremely courageous, and I very much appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of other people appreciate it as well that are watching.
No problems, and everyone be kind to each other.
Yeah, great. We're signing off now, and we will upload this video to a YouTube channel, which then I'll tweet the link out probably tomorrow, because this already went on too long, and my girlfriend's probably watching this wondering why the hell I haven't left yet. All right, bye everyone.
All right, bye. Bye.